Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of October 8th, 2025. If you're listening to this or watching this on the day it comes, well, usually we drop it like late on Tuesday night, right? But Wednesday, if you're watching this on Wednesday, I'm probably in the air on my way to New York. I am going to get to go through some finagling. So I have to stay. The convention runs from Thursday the 9th through Sunday the 12th. I have to stay. Like, if I wasn't going to the convention, I'd be flying out on Monday the 13th, or late on Sunday the 12th for work and staying through the 17th. So that being said, my work is now paying for my plane ticket. I'm just flying out early on the 8th, even though I don't have to do any work because I'm off on vacation until the 13th. So I'll be working in New York City. Well, actually, mostly New Jersey. About 3 days in New Jersey and 2 days in the city that week, the 12th or the 13th through the 17th. So it's great. Like, my work is covering. So I was going to use miles, my Southwest miles, but now instead of using miles, I'm going to accrue miles, and it's great. And then the person that I'm sharing a room with is covering the cost of the room. I just have to pay them like over the next couple months. So I just need to pay for my food basically, and then any money that I spend at the con, which is going to be very, very light because I still have had only one person donate, whatever. So yeah, it's fine. Again, first world problems getting to go to New York Comic Con. I'm finally getting excited now that it's like for sure going to happen. So yeah, again, if you want to PayPal me $1 or $2, anything helps. So I'll be able to eat when I'm there. QR code on the screen if you're checking us out on YouTube. Otherwise, you can go to the link, the episode link at LRM Online or the Comic Source. So yeah, I'm going to get to go. It's going to be fun just to see everybody. It's interesting. Last year, just to give a little behind the scenes, last year, it was super late when I found out I was going. And I got like no PR people reaching out to me about stuff. And I was like, oh, it's because I applied so late, right? Like for San Diego, just to give a comparison, about 6 weeks before the San Diego show, I just start getting bombarded with all three different emails that I have that people reach out to me on. All three of them, just the inboxes fill up with all these PR people. Hey, cover this, do this interview, do that interview. And at New York, because it was so last minute last year, I didn't get hardly any. And I thought that was because I was so late. Well, this year I wasn't late. I was ahead of it. I applied, months and months ago, and I still have gotten like nothing. So then I reached out to some other press people I know. It's just the nature of the show. There's just not as many like press opportunities, and the press opportunities there are, they go for the really big outlets. So it's no big deal. I mean, it just means I won't have as many obligations. I'm still going to have a few interviews here and there. I have at least one press room. So we'll see how it goes. Some of the bigger things that are going to be there. Glenn Powell is going to be there for Running Man. He has a big event on their main stage. A bunch of the original Alien actors are there. They're going to have a little bit of a reunion. A bunch of the X-Men First Class, like James McAvoy and all those guys. They are going to be there as well. They're going to have a little reunion panel. So as far as you guys, people that tune into this show are concerned, there's 3 DC panels. There's one for Vertigo, there's one for DCKO, and there's one for Gotham, Batman, basically. I will be at all 3 of those panels. I'll be live tweeting those panels. So you guys, even if you don't get to make it, yes, you'll hear the news later. But if you want to hear the news at the same time the news breaks, just be sure you're following me on Twitter. Just do a search for the Comic Source on Twitter and follow, and I'll be live tweeting all the news and pictures from the panels and what have you. And then I'm also, I realized that I made this, so we're recording on Saturday because we want to kind of get these in the can. I have a nice tasty beverage here, old fashioned. We want to get these in the can because I'm going to be gone. So we're hoping to record this one for the 8th and the one next for the 15th. Because again, I'm still going to be out there because of my day job. We're hoping to get them in the can before I leave. Because I've already read all the DC books for the 8th and the 15th and the 22nd, actually. Because they're already in the press thing, and I've been kind of on a little bit of a binge. Yeah. But I realized I hadn't had a single alcoholic drink since San Diego in July. And, I'm getting old. I don't drink that much anymore. I know Rocky's kind of in the same boat.
That's a sin.
I'm going. You're at Comic-Con.
You're out of practice.
Yeah, I'm going to be hanging out with our buddy Trevor and his friend, I guess my friend Tyson as well, Superstar as I call him. But man, those guys, they're young and they like to put it away. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be such a lightweight. And how it is at the cons, Rocky, you're running on no sleep and you're walking
yeah.
a lot, tired. Then you add alcohol in the mix. I'm like, oh, I better do a little pregame here. So I'm partaking of an old fashioned. So anyway, all that out of the way. It's a great week. This week, the 8th, we have the highly anticipated DC KO kicking off. We've got Absolute Batman 13, which has a real focus on Catwoman in a lot of ways. Like I said, I've read the next couple weeks, man. October is going to be a fantastic month, such a fantastic month. And I've talked about this before, how I don't usually like to read ahead, and I'm doing it just because of circumstances. And again, it's first world problem. It's great to be able to read ahead, but the reason I don't like doing it is because I don't want to get confused and give anything away from upcoming weeks. But also, I've read those upcoming weeks, the 15th and the 22nd already, and they're great weeks as well. And I'm super excited to talk about those books. Like, oh man, that's what has me most hyped to go to New York and just kind of share the DC love. Because man, the DC books for this week on the 8th and the 15th and the 22nd are, man, DC is. We talked about that lame duck period, Rocky. You remember, like with everything leading up to KO, how things felt like they're on a downturn. Man, The calendar flipped to October, and everything's dialed back up to 11. So I thought this week was great. The coming weeks are great. I'm like, man, as soon as the 29th is in our press box, I might just read those too. Like, I don't want to wait. Oh man, I feel like a kid again. I'm so excited for DC right now. And actually, some Marvel stuff I've been checking out recently, and independent stuff. The Age of Revelation X-Men event that's going on has me excited. So I'm reading more comic books than ever. And that kind of dovetails into the live show thing that we were talking about before, which I'll talk about at the end. But I want to throw it over to Rocky. I think you've had a chance to read ahead as well. What do you think about this week? What do you think about the upcoming weeks? What's your feeling about DC right now?
October is a fun month. It's going to be a fun month. Great time to be a DC fan. It's, I got to tell you, between the absolute titles, the absolute DC universe, and the DC KO event, and the sort of like the dark side and the Omega particles and the Omega energy side of things, anything that deals with dark side or the absolute universe, I love. It reminded me of there was a couple of other. A number of YouTube channels have sort of posed the question, is the absolute universe exceeding the mainstream universe in popularity? And will the absolute DC universe, perhaps, could it possibly replace the mainstream DC universe? I got to tell you, I'm collecting all the absolute titles. I'm enjoying the absolute titles more. I'm enjoying the absolute universe more than the mainstream universe. And I love Jeremy Adams' Green Lantern. And I love what Mark Waid's doing on the mainstream with Action Comics, and I enjoy what Joshua Williamson's doing with Superman in the mainstream universe. I'm loving the mainstream universe, but I'm liking the absolute universe just a little bit more. That's probably because I'm so used to it. But what a wonderful problem to have. Like, I love both, but it's like choosing. It's like waking up in the morning and I love fruit. It's like, well, do I have an apple or do I have an orange? I kind of like both of them. But you know what? I'm not going to complain whichever one I get. But it's just a really great time. And October is just going to ramp things up all the more.
Yeah, it is a great problem to have. And again, we will be doing some live shows, but it's probably not going to happen until November at the earliest. But kind of in preparation for that, we're hoping to do just some like comic talk episodes where we don't necessarily focus on DC or independence or what have you. We can kind of just talk about everything. But we can also talk about other things that don't necessarily relate to specific books, kind of like the beginning that we have here, where we're kind of just shooting the shit, so to speak. But that's a topic that I want to talk about: absolute universe versus mainstream universe. Plus, these crossovers that are coming, but intercompany crossovers is something that we can talk about. So, if you want our opinions on those kind of stuff, look for those comic talk episodes. They'll probably drop on the Comic Source channel. Hoping to get one in the can before I go to New York, and then, like I said, when we come back and start doing those live shows, that'll be kind of more what those shows are about. But yeah, the one thing I would say, we'll talk about this more again at a later date, but the one thing I'd say is, like, be careful what you wish for, because the one thing that you and I, longtime DC readers, knows that the fundamental backbone of the DC universe is hope, and kind of that brightness or whatever. That hope and brightness is missing from the absolute universe, purposely so, because, we get plenty of the talk of it. We saw it in the Justice League Omega special, where we're talking about, these Omega particles, and in Absolute Evil, these Omega particles. and how everything is infused with that and its darkness, whatever. The hopefulness is not there. So I wonder if it did replace the Absolute Universe, did replace the main. If people after a while would be like, oh, it's missing the hopefulness that we come to expect from DC. That would be the only thing that I would worry about. But it's kind of interesting because I feel like it's almost four corners of a universe we have right now. Maybe you could even say five. You have the Absolute Universe, you have the main universe, and then you have three other corners that are sort of, while they're in the main universe, they're not as closely tied in, right? If you have been reading the first couple issues of Matt Fraction's Batman, you don't really, it's not mentioned that Darkseid is not mentioned, DCKO is not mentioned. In Tom King's Wonder Woman, for better or for worse, which, man, maybe the worst issue of the series so far for me anyway. The last one, the next one's pretty good. I enjoyed the next one for various reasons. That's not mentioning DCKO, and then the last one I'll mention is Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is not mentioning. She's in the event and probably will play not a significant role, but she's going to be there to pull in the Harley Quinn fans. But if you read her book, you wouldn't know there's anything going on. So it's a little interesting. A lot of the main universe titles are tied in. Certainly Superman titles, Justice League. But when you get to things like, World's Finest, which is, takes place in a sort of earlier time frame. And then those three titles I mentioned, they don't really make reference to it. So it's a little interesting. A little bit of something for everybody. Then, of course, you have the Elseworld stuff and what have you. So let's go ahead and dive into the books. Well, actually, before we do that, let me open up the quick. This is my last of the pin figs. Again, the popularity of the minifig Legos and the popularity of enamel pins. And this company, Fig Pin, is kind of leaning into that. Oh, man. And so I bought a few of these, and you can see. I think this is one that I already had. It's the same as the one I opened last week. So it's a Superman. It's cool. Yeah. Like glittery. So I ended up with two of the same, which isn't.
It's too bad when you get doubles. It's too bad you didn't have a co-reviewer that you could send some of those doubles to.
Well, you can
I'm just bugging you.
Maybe I'll take it with me. I don't know if Fig Pin will be at New York Comic Con as a vendor, but that's the other thing. You can take these to their booths at cons, and you can trade if you have extras. Although I also could send it out to Rocky as care package, whatever. We'll see. And it's cool. They come with little stands, so you can pin them on something, or they come with little stands. You can display them. And then the other thing I've been opening, everybody, these Fleer Brilliance packs that I got at San Diego.
Darkseid, right on.
Off with Darkseid. Look at Darkseid is right. Look at how he's just sitting on that throne, just chilling. That's fantastic. And then Superman, that's Kerry Gamble art. Recognize that from one of the very famous iconic covers of the Triangle era. Then we got the classic cover. And this is from Superman number 15. So another classic cover. Like, I'm with Rocky. We've talked before about, I love the classic cover cards, but I wish the border wasn't so big so we could get a better look at the classic cover. Then we've got, it's a Supergirl, but a different version. I'm not necessarily familiar. Almost looks like the version from the Flash.
Yeah, that was from I think that was it. There was a period of time where Turner, Michael Turner drew for DC, and I think that was a Supergirl version during his.
That was when Kara came back. Under the dark side, but there was like another version of it, I guess, and then All right, cool. Those are fantastic. Still have a few packs to go. I was hoping to get those all open before I headed to New York, but apparently it's not going to happen. But got all the Fig Pins open. Those are cool. So anyway, let's go ahead and kick it off. We're kicking it off with CORT, Children of the Round Table, issue number 2, from writer Tom Taylor, art by Danielle Di Nicuolo, colors by Rain Barretto, and letters by Wes Abbott. I really, really enjoyed the first issue of this more than I thought I would. It's Tom Taylor, but I talked about Danielle Di Nicuolo. I'm not the biggest fan of his art style, although I picked up the Boom series that these two did together, Tom Taylor and Danielle, 7 Secrets. But again, just not a fan of the art style, so I didn't expect to enjoy it as much. And then when we reviewed the first issue, Rocky was like, correct me if I'm wrong, you thought it was an Elseworlds? Or maybe it was another time we talked about that you thought it was an Elseworlds, but Tom
Yeah,
Taylor.
I didn't think. Yeah, I didn't think. I thought it was just animated. I thought it was its own. I thought maybe they're doing a cartoon or something, and I didn't even read it because
Yeah, yeah. But Tom Taylor has come out and said this is in continuity, so it's kind of interesting. Going along the lines of those other corners. Apparently now we have the fourth here. DC has like 6 corners in their universe. Um, no mention of DCKO here, but I think with
yeah,
the popularity of that Seven Secrets and Tom Taylor's popularity and fans of Seven Secrets, because this does have a little bit of a vibe. Seven Secrets is younger heroes and whatever, and this has a little bit of that vibe. So maybe they're trying to pull in some of that audience, which is great. But again, you read this, you wouldn't know there's anything going on with DCK or whatever, and that's fine. But I am a fan of Arthurian Legends, so I did enjoy the first issue more than I expected to, and that's continuing with this as we're getting different reveals and different weapons, and it's relatively fast paced. Still a lot of questions to be answered. Mordred in some way is kind of the big bad. How's he still alive? The Knights of the Round Table, along with King Arthur, um, their sort of personalities or their life force or their intelligence I don't know how you want to call it. In some way, they're imbued in the weapons, so they're like sentient, they're aware, but instead of having bodies, they're just the weapons, and they can talk to these kids that are apparently going to be the children of the Round Table that wield these weapons. They can talk to them. So, yeah, I did enjoy this, but that being said, it did not make my top 10. It came at number 7 for me. Partly because of the art and partly just on the strength of the other books that were out this week. So after that first issue, I didn't necessarily think I was going to like it, but I liked it more than I thought. And so I was actually anticipating this issue, and it didn't let me down. And it probably would have made my top 5 in another week where we didn't have the first issue of DCKO, we didn't have Absolute Batman, and that sort of thing. So I very much did enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to the next issue. What are your thoughts, Rock?
this came in at number 11 for me. I don't. I like Arthurian Legends too. I'm just not a fan. I'm not a huge fan of the manga style art, and kind of makes me wonder why they're going with this style. I think it's because of the success of the art, of the eclectic artistic styles of the Absolute Universe, which have really seemed to contribute to the success of the Absolute Universe. Maybe now is the time to sort of, I realize I'm in the minority on this. The success of manga shows that people, I think, at this present generation, new readers really like that particular style, and that's what this court is. It's Arthurian legend. There's a lot of appeal to that legend, and I don't know, frankly, how well it's going to fit into the DC universe, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of magic based heroes in the universe. I can see, maybe, I think it could be interesting, and because we have a lot of young blood in the DC universe in the last 5 years, and so adding more sort of like young teenagers to the mix, I think, would be a good idea. And all having swords and talking swords. I mean, it's right up the DC alley, and the wheelhouse. So it should work good. The story's not bad. It's not bad. It's just, it's really not my cup of tea. I'll be honest. I'll look more forward to when there's a crossover. I would like to see a crossover. Throw Zatanna in here or something like that, and then maybe I'll give it more of a look-see.
Yeah, that's
But
interesting, right? Because I wonder. I mean, I don't know that they necessarily thought, okay, let's just manga style and we'll try. I mean, I don't think they think about manga as a detriment necessarily, even though there's a lot of kind of more
well, clearly
traditional.
not. Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah, like
don't. Yeah,
yeah, you and I we're a little predisposed, because it's
yeah,
not what we're used to. But
yeah.
the manga style could pull in. So I think again, based on more of the success of Seven Secrets, which is the same creative team, and probably just Tom Taylor having he's got goodwill with DC. So if he wants to bring in somebody to do the art on a pitch that he's had approved, they're probably going to go with who he says. And based on the fact that he worked with Danielle before, it's probably why it happened. But yeah, it's interesting because I sort of think, well, why wouldn't this be Elseworld? Like, wouldn't you want it to be Elseworlds? Because then you're telling people who don't maybe necessarily read DC, hey, come in, you can read this, you don't have to worry about anything else that's going on in the universe, right? But then at the same time, what you just said, you're like, I might be more interested if Zatanna shows up. Well, if you put it all out on its own, you can't necessarily. Not that we can't have crossovers, multiverses, whatever. So it's interesting because I kind of feel like I don't know that this needed to be in continuity.
Yeah.
Because you're throwing them in the deep end of the pool, but at the same time, as you just mentioned, maybe it opens up the possibility of crossovers or what have you. So And I mean, we all know if there is going to be a crossover, the first crossover would probably be with Batman. You want people to show up.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Volume 2.
Damien.
Yeah. Batman, Batman, Court, Joker, take on the Joker. And then you got Mordred and the Joker teaming up against Batman and Court. So anyway,
Yeah.
let's move on. Up next, we have Batman Dark Patterns, number 11, penultimate issue. Dan Waters is the writer, Hayden Sherman on art, Triona Farrell on colors, Frank Sidovic on letters. This one, for me, came in at number 9. I have been enjoying this, and I love that it's early days of Batman, and I think Dan Waters does a great job giving voice to these sort of younger versions of the characters, whether it be Batman, Jim Gordon, or some of the villains. And Hayden Sherman's art has been very consistent throughout. It kind of suits the style of story that they're telling. But again, just based on the strength of other books this week, this one just kind of fell down the list a little bit for me. But it made your top 5. So give us your more in-depth thoughts on it.
Yeah, actually, this made my top 3. I really enjoyed this. I guess the reason Hayden Sherman's art continues to blow me away on this, and it continues to it gets better and better every issue, just like his art on Absolute Wonder Woman does. I mean, the guy's just on fire. And speaking of which, see what I did there? Firefly. Gotham City is repeatedly on fire in this issue, and that's part of the central plot point here. Commissioner Gordon in this issue is talking to Firefly because they need help. It's sort of like talking to a serial killer to try to find a serial killer. They're asking Firefly's advice. Commissioner Gordon is asking for Firefly's advice on how to find this arsonist, because Batman he's been incapacitated. He's been injured because of what happened to him in previous issues. And writer Dan Waters has done a really good job here of showing sort of Batman. Batman is healing, but he's still injured, but he's healing, but he's still very intelligent, and he's meditating, and he's focusing his mental efforts on trying to solve the mystery of who's causing the fires of Gotham. And unfortunately, his body still needs to heal. And there's really Dan Waters does a great job of a lot of great character work here, where Alfred is trying to talk some sense into Bruce, because he's allowing himself to get too sort of drowned into the crime fighting, and he's not focusing on the healing of his body as well as his mind. And he's too obsessed. He's obsessed with looking to Dr. Sirica. Batman suspects that Dr. Sirica, who is the forensic pathologist of the new forensic pathologist of Gotham City Police Department, he thinks something's up with Dr. Sirica, that he's linked to the fires. Meanwhile, Dr. Sirica was kidnapped by a person by the name of Nikki Harris, who's a journalist who's obsessed with the mythology of Batman, and he's also obsessed with the mythology of Gotham City. And he believes that Dr. Sirica is sort of like the opposite of who he is, because Dr. Sirica, in his mind, represents the truth and this Nikki Harris, who's a journalist, he's very frustrated with Dr. Sirica because he's taking the myth out of Batman. He's turning Batman into a mere policeman who's helping him solve crime, whereas Batman is a myth that the people of Gotham need. And so he's kidnapped Dr. Sirica, and what exactly he wants to do with him, other than, he wants to sort of end him. But he also seems to be the one who's starting these fires. And so obviously he's a psychopath. But it's very interesting. And what I love what Dan Waters does in this so well here is that I feel like I'm interested in Gotham City again. I sort of like the history of Gotham City told through the mind of Batman, but also this Harris character, where you can see all the great fires that took place in Gotham over the decades and the centuries they're sort of like the trigger points, so to speak, where the present day fires are taking place, and just really great stuff. One of my favorite pages is one where Hayden Sherman is just so great at being at taking, on this one page, he has Batman holding up his cape, and then on different folds of the cape are different panels representing present-day Gotham and Gotham in the past. Just really brilliantly done. Color work's fantastic. It really pulls me into the story all the more. And ultimately, we know it ends with a fire in the financial district of Gotham, representing the place where the great fire of Gotham in the past, in the 1800s, where that began. And ultimately, Dr. Sarika is intended, I believe, to burn in that fire just as Batman arrives on the scene. And that's how the comic book ends. And I just thought it was excellent. And it's in my top three because at a period of time in October 2025 where I'm obsessed with DCKO, I'm obsessed with the Absolute Universe, for anything in the mainstream to make my top three, that's impressive. So kudos to Dan Watters and Hayden Sherman, did a bang up job.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a very critically acclaimed book, and an interesting way that they chose to, tell three stories, 4 issues each, in 12 issue series. I wonder if they'll continue that format, with another Batman book, because we had Batman, Brave and the Bold, but it was anthology. Then we had Batman's, was it Streets of Gotham or Gotham Knights or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, I can't remember.
Anthology. And that this seemed to have replaced those, and I prefer this. Um, same creative team, but basically three sort of standalone stories, all set with close time period. Dr. Sarika obviously has been a character that's appeared in all three. Same with James Gordon, but I wonder if they'll continue. All right, let's move on. Up next, we have Aquaman from Jeremy Adams, John Timms on art, Rex Locus and Matt Herms on colors, Dave Sharp on letters. Man, this is another one I really, really, really enjoyed this. It made my top five. We have everything you want from an Aquaman comic in 2025, I feel like. Aquaman continues to exhibit this higher power level that he has with the ability, the hydrokinesis, which is the power that we're used to Mira having, ability to control water. There's plenty of mystery with the younger version of Andy, their daughter, Andrina, Andrina, and the older version, which, that's what you see. You see Tempest, you see Jackson Hyde, you see Mira, you see the young toddler aged Andy, and they're trapped in Atlantis, and we find out, there's some sort of magical shield. Anybody who goes down to Atlantis sees it in ruins. They're trapped there. They can't get out. The people on the outside see ruins. They can't get in. But if Andy is there as a little toddler, is this other Andrina? Is it not Andrina? Or is it Andrina from a different timeline or from the future brought back to the past?
I know, that's weird.
Know. And there's hints here that maybe it's not Andrina, that it's somebody else, or and it's a future Andrina that's possessed by somebody or mind controlled or what have you. But she definitely has bad intentions. But on top of that, we get these undead pirates that show up, which are really fantastic. And Jeremy Adams hasn't forgotten about the other supporting cast that he's built around Aquaman either. The Lady of the Lake, Arian, the Atlantean sorcerer that had his own book back in the 80s, Captain Nemo, and his submarine. So I love that they are still there as supporting characters. I love seeing Aquaman and his team, so to speak, fight against these undead pirates. And at the end, we find out, where they came from and who summoned them. And it turns out that it's this future Andrina, this future Andy. So again, like I said, bad intentions. Who is she? Why is she doing this? What's the treasure that she unearths? I mean, the whole reason that she raised these pirates from the dead was for them to find this treasure chest that's got, looks like a traditional pirate treasure chest with a skull on it, and it's sort of closed and wrapped with chains. And what is going on? Just as we finish one action-packed arc of the series, Jeremy Adams is giving us another arc with plenty of mystery. Aquaman still kicking ass, but again, it's a big cast of characters for an Aquaman book. It's been since the Peter David run that I can remember Aquaman having this. That was when he was like teaming up with Dolphin and Mira and all them, and it felt a little more like a team book. It's been since then that Aquaman has felt like a team book, and it doesn't necessarily need to, because it is Aquaman and I'm showing up for Aquaman. But again, it's that feel of it broadens the scope as opposed to Aquaman just always having to carry everything himself. Um, and it's interesting because I've talked before about Jeremy Adams last time he was on the show, wanting to move Aquaman beyond this, quiet, stoic personality that he's had and really flesh him out as a character. So it's interesting. He's like, okay, well, if we have a book that's just focused on Aquaman, you'll be able to do more character development. But what I'm finding is if you don't have just Aquaman there and you can focus on some other characters at times and give Aquaman a chance to kind of step back a little bit and evolve, I think that can work in a comic, and it can work really well. And sometimes it can work better than just being focused. Like if this was just Aquaman and we were always on Aquaman, right? It's sort of like you see your face in the mirror like every day, right? You see yourself, you know what you look like. And so if you're doing something to change, like let's say you're trying to lose weight, right? And you see yourself in the mirror every day, you don't notice the subtle changes as opposed to somebody else who doesn't see you for 3 or 4 months. And in that meantime, you've lost 20 or 30 pounds. They see it, last time I saw you, you were 20 pounds heavier. I'm going to notice that difference like immediately. It's going to be more of a drastic change for them as opposed to you're like, man, I don't even really notice that much of a change because I'm seeing myself every day. So it's kind of the same thing, right? If you just focus on Aquaman, maybe you don't notice the change necessarily if it was just on Aquaman, but having these other characters in there and building the story and having intrigue and mystery, it's really interesting to me. And the John Timms art, I've talked before about it's not the easiest thing to do art where you're telling a story underwater because it has to flow a certain way and it has to look a certain way and what have you. And he's doing a fantastic job. On top of that, on top of the rendering and kind of the layouts where he's killing it underwater, he's bringing some of that aesthetic when not underwater, which is really interesting. And I love it because it provides this kind of throughput with the style. And it's no more apparent in this entire series than on the final page that we get in this issue when we see this full-grown Andy, maybe or maybe not Andy. When we see her, when she has that chest, maybe it's not the last page. Go up one more page, Rocky. No, it is on the last page. Sorry, it is on the last page. The last page, last panel. When you see her there in the shadows and how the shadows kind of blend in, it's almost like using negative space, which again, that's kind of a throughput with kind of the flow of the aquatic underwater scenes that John Timms is doing. So he's killing it out on art. Probably my favorite John Timms art I've ever seen. This is quickly becoming my favorite run of Aquaman that I've ever read. It hasn't surpassed a Jeph Johns run for me yet, but it's getting close. It's getting close. And interesting, Jeremy Adams taking that same Jeph Johns route, right? From Flash to Green Lantern to Aquaman. This is the Jeph Johns route. So anyway, was this in your top 5? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, give us your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, it's again, Jeremy Adams once again. I love how he can make the Flash into a family comic and fun. He can go over to the Green Lantern, science fiction, make science fiction fun. He goes over to Aquaman and he makes the aquatic kingdom fun. And then in this issue, he's got a horror comic. It's literally a horror comic. It's like Aquaman and Captain Nemo and friends meet Pirates of the Caribbean. And he makes that fun too. He incorporates Halloween brilliantly this month, and there's literally 3 tiny kids who are trick or treating, who are having a blast when this pirate ship shows up. So while you've got these huge stakes this issue, you've got all kinds of craziness going on. You got Andrina, his daughter from the future, grown up, seeking a treasure of something. We don't know what's in this treasure chest, but she resurrects an old pirate and an old pirate ship to distract Aquaman and Captain Nemo and Vivian and Orion, while as a way, while that distraction occurs and they ultimately defeat the pirate. Andrina utilizes her time to essentially work behind the scenes, acquire the chest, and we don't know what for. But there's so much fun getting to that ending. So we've got action, we've got horror, we've got serious moments, And then we got hilarious moments with these kids who are having an absolute blast watching this. I mean, I live vicariously through the three trick-or-treaters in this issue who are I mean they're dressed up like Aquaman, and I'm trying to find pictures of them here, like Green Lantern, Aquaman, and one of them's dressed like a pirate, of course. And it's it's hilarious, and it's just plain fun. And again, I'll be straight up, I never enjoyed Jeph Johns' Aquaman as much as I've enjoyed Jeremy Adams. Like, this issue is, in my view, probably one of the best Aquaman issues I've read in years. Just because of what it encapsulated in one full issue. And I'm looking forward to see what the secret that Andrina has, what's in the treasure chest, what's the power. Is it related to Apocalypse? Because next issue is teased that Apocalypse Now is coming, Escape from Atlantis, and a countdown to DCKO. But anyways, just a really great issue. And John Tim's art, I mean, I think he found his character that he's the best at rendering, quite frankly. Just really excellent. Quite enjoyable. And yes, it made my top 5, coming in at number 5.
Yeah, came in at my top at number 5 for me as well. Every one of the covers is a banger. The kind of the spooky feel of the main cover. There's a Guillaume March cover, which is awesome. I know you're a huge fan.
Yeah.
I remember Guillaume March when he, again, on the New 52 Catwoman, I remember the cover number 1, so sexy, but then his art, I haven't enjoyed it as much in recent years, but he doesn't give us a female character. He gives Aquaman. It's Aquaman that he focuses on for his cover, and Aquaman's looking badass and sexy. I'd say that fully secure in my heterosexuality. But there's also a Mira cover where she's looking super sexy, and then there's a Marcio Takara cover who, he's the artist we know from Poison Ivy with G. Willow Wilson. And he's got a fantastic cover using kind of that organic feel that he brings to his art, where Aquaman's riding a seahorse, where Aquaman's looking badass and regal, whatever. So no matter what cover you go with, those are all open order covers. None of those are incentives, which are awesome. But in talking about these Aquaman covers, it did remind me that I wanted to. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning to talk about CORT. I wanted to mention I think it's open order as well. For CORT number 1, did you see the variant cover for CORT number 1, Rocky?
No.
It's Matea D. Eloise, who we're both big fans of from when he did
the Wonder Woman, Absolute Wonder Woman,
but also he did the Cult with Kelly Thompson. So he's got again, it's an open order cover, and I just double checked, but he's got an open ordered cover for CORT number 2, and to both our point of not being a big fan of the manga, when I look at this cover, the variant cover, and I see these characters could have looked like this, that would have been an entirely different feel for this story, and I think I would be enjoying it even more. So just wanted to bring that up. Definitely check it out, Rocky, when you get a chance, and let me know if you think you would be down for it with that aesthetic. Because I think you would. I think we're both big fans of. Yeah, there you go. There it is. Like, yeah, doesn't that look more badass than what we're not? Again, I'm enjoying what we're getting. But this feels like maybe a little more serious, if you know what I mean. Like, which then engenders more stakes for me, as opposed to kind of the fun, youthful energy that it has now, which is perfectly fine. But again, just different strokes for different folks. So yeah, if it was this. Do you think you'd be enjoying it more, Rocky?
Probably, yeah. If it was the more traditional DC house style, for sure. There's no question. That's why I'm just saying, but that's also why I don't like the art in Absolute Green Lantern. But I can't deny the success of the Absolute Universe. So it's one of those things. It's a trade-off, right? Art's subjective, so I don't mind. Whatever. I got to expand my artistic tastes, but
yeah. You're going to make us happy, or you're going to sell more books. Then do the thing that sell more books by all means. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Up next, we have Batman Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice, issue number 4. Again, this is another book for me that just kind of suffered from the strength of the week. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but it only came in at number 8 for me. Although this Elseworlds Tale from writer Andy Diggle with art by Leandro Fernandez has been killing it. Matt Hollingsworth on colors. I'm not sure who does the letters. We didn't get a credits page, so apologies for the letter. But yeah, we get a big battle here between Superman, well, the whole league, and Zod, which is really fantastic. We see Luthor, making his move, and yeah, I'm really, really enjoying this. I probably enjoyed this. This is probably my favorite issue so far of this particular volume. We had the first 6 issues, the Kryptonian Age, the second 6 issues, A League for Justice. This is my favorite of them so far, and I think, that being said, I think there's been at least 1 or 2 of the previous issues that have made my top 5. This would definitely have been in my top 5 in a week where we didn't have DCKO and Absolute Batman.
Yeah.
So anyway, what are your thoughts? Anything to add?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. The stakes are really ramping up. General Zod is, of course, he's the doom of Krypton that's been prophesized. He finally confronts the Justice League. The battle sequences are awesome. I want to give a shout out to Andy Diggle. I love the way he scripted the battle. I loved how Batman and Talia work together. I love the sort of jealousy between Batman's wife Julie, or his fiancee Julie, and Talia, where there's some hidden jealousy there. I love when Constantine shows up and he interacts with the Huntress, who's Julie, and Cyborg, as they sort of put the pieces together, and they show up to save the day because Zod is clearly winning. And the way that Cyborg, who has Kryptonian tech himself, manages to defeat Zod, exposing him ultimately to the Kryptonite. Superman gets exposed to the Kryptonite shard. While all this ruckus goes on, Luthor shows up, steals the Kryptonite shard, and it hints at the end that he's in the Arctic using the shard to probably try to create the Fortress of Solitude for his own machinations. And so, very well done. I've summarized it really quickly. I wish I could do more to it, but it's not in our top 5, so I know we're not supposed to talk too much about if it's not in our top 5. But I really love it. I love the effects of Kryptonite. How it has it's more powerful, the effects of Kryptonite on the way it affects Zod and Superman. I think that's really cool. And I really, really love. I love this series, and it came in at number 7 for me only because of the strength of the week. Otherwise, normally this would absolutely be in my top 5, even in my top 3 in other weeks. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I completely agree. And then one of the things we haven't mentioned that I want to call out, and we'll move on, is the fact that when we talk about this version of Justice League, we're mashing up Justice Society and Justice League, because it's not Hal Jordan as Green Lantern, it's Alan Scott, and it's not Barry Allen or Wally West as Flash. It's Jay Garrick, and we get to see Jay use his powers for the first time here. And Constantine talks about how they're linked into to magic. So I appreciate that. That even though it's Cyborg, who you could say is kind of the final generation of Justice League, wasn't a founding member of the Justice League until the new 52 version of Justice League. But we got Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent, who obviously they're in all the versions, and Diana as well. So you almost hear Justice League and you think of, the founding 7 from that Brave and the Bold issue. But really we're talking about bringing some Justice Society members in with Alan Scott, Green Lantern, and Jay Garrick Flash, but then Cyborg as an even, newer version. And then you could even say Justice League Dark with John Constantine. So I love that it's kind of a mashup of all the big teams, as it were. All right, up next. And I do want to mention alternate cover here. Mike Perkins does an open order alternate cover that's just Batman's front and center. The Kryptonite's glowing. It's Mike Perkins kills it on that cover. So I'm not picking this up physically, but if I was, that would be the cover I'd get for sure. All right, up next we have Batman and Robin 26. This is from Philip Kennedy Johnson. Fico Ossio on art, Marcelo Mayalo on colors, Steve Wands on letters. The Quiet Man Part 2. This does make my top 5, but it didn't make your top 5, Rocky. So I'll let you go first. Any quick thoughts on it before I dive in a little deeper?
Yeah, well, I still thought it was excellent. It was just on the strength of the week. I just thought that the Quiet Man is. I actually love the concept, the idea of. It's nice to see sort of like the guy that a brand new character who just seems to be like an ordinary person, but who is obviously very underestimated. Obviously has his own principles. He suffered a loss of a son, and he wants to. It's a sort of a classic tropey revenge story, but with a lot of interesting twists tied in with this Quiet Man at one point had some sort of dealings with the Penguin and Two-Faced, and ultimately another character that he's really ultimately after, that's revealed at the end, that he believes played a direct role in the death of his son. And this Quiet Man seems to have some abilities, and he's very skilled. He's a very skilled fighter. He's very quiet. He's literally very quiet spoken. He's called the Quiet Man because he's very soft spoken. He's not one of these angry. He might have a lot of anger in him, but he doesn't express it. He's very quiet, but he's a quiet person as he speaks, but boy, he sure makes a lot of noise when he gets violent. And I thought it was excellent, very well done. The storytelling is compelling. It pulls you in. PKJ continues to do a great job here. And the relationship, again, the evolving relationship between Batman and Damian, it really works. It works really, really well. And yeah, but it's in your top 5, so I'll let you speak more about it.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the ventriloquist, so I'm hoping Philip Kennedy Johnson can elevate him a little bit. But I mean, that's neither here nor there, because this is fantastic for so many different reasons. First of all, let's talk about the villains themselves, right? Whether it's a ventriloquist or Two-Face who shows up here, or Penguin, it's the interactions and the interplay between those villains, and not necessarily as we're seeing in real time, but it's how their different machinations and plans and power structure in Gotham intersect and clash with each other. That creates an interesting dynamic, which, if Gotham City were real, first of all, no one would live there. We've talked about that many times, but if they did, and if there were these different supervillains, this is exactly what would happen. They would have these sort of issues, and there would be collateral damage of people dying, like this Quiet Man's son. And the Quiet Man appears to be, he was in prison and just got out when we first met him. So, apparently he's been a criminal as well. So what exactly was his role? Whatever. So many different moving parts, but starting with that core of how these villains play off each other and how they're different quests for power and monetary gain or whatever sort of overlap and collide with each other and cause problems for each other. Now you bring in this Quiet Man who, Rocky's right, and I love how it's displayed by the letterer, Steve Wands. When he talks, his letters are a little fainter in his word balloons or what have you, but yet even in his quietness and how he holds himself, Fico Ossio does a good job of making him seem quiet in body language as well. Everybody's, even the Penguin, they're all scared of him. So clearly he's formidable, and they realize it. So in that way, he reminds me a little bit of The Help, right? Who Tom King created. The Batman, what was it called? Batman Final something or other. Final Time. I can't remember. Anyway. It reminded me of that, and I loved it, right? Clearly he's a threat. Clearly there's a sense of menace that he, just as he walks around. So, I appreciated that. So you add that in with this different sort of, triangle of villains with Two-Face and Penguin and Ventriloquist, and how that's all going to play off. But then when you bring Batman into the mix, and specifically a title called Batman and Robin, and specifically a title called Batman and Robin written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who we've seen has done a fantastic job killing time. Batman Killing Time, that's what it was.
That's what I was with Tom King, right?
Yeah. But Philip Kennedy Johnson doing a fantastic job of telling the story of Batman and Robin with the relationship of Batman and Robin as father and son being front and center. So here is, and it starts off in the first issue of this arc, where Batman and Robin are on patrol. Bruce feels like they're doing a good job, enough to where they can take at least part of the night off and go see a movie, do a regular, normal father and son thing. And then that's when this Quiet Man kills a bunch of people, whatever. And then Damian's like, oh, we shouldn't have taken time off or whatever. And Batman, again, through the love of a father for his sons, like, I want you to have some semblance of a normal life and not just, be under the mask all the time. So from that perspective, here is a character, the Quiet Man, who is out for vengeance for losing his son. And I think there's going to come a moment when Batman is confronted with that reality, where maybe he has a chance to take down the Quiet Man. And will he hesitate in that moment, because he's going to put himself in the Quiet Man's shoes and go, well, if I was the Quiet Man, or I was in the situation the Quiet Man was in, where somebody had killed Damian, what wouldn't I do to bring that person to justice? And that might be the difference, right? Like, Quiet Man doesn't necessarily seem to want justice for ventriloquist as much as vengeance. Um, but we've seen Batman get angry and cross that, come close to crossing the line before. So again, that's just great storytelling. That's great plotting. That's great character work from Philip Kennedy Johnson. And the last thing I'll mention is the art. How great a job Fico Ossio is doing here. We've seen his art, recently in the last couple of years, where he's done a fantastic job, specifically on the Mr. Miracle Shiloh Norman version of Mr. Miracle. His art there was super dynamic as well. But what a difference! And I don't know if it's Fico Ossio, excuse me, in his rendering itself, or if it's Marcelo Maiello in the coloring. But adding more texture, because if you go look at Fico Ossio's art on that Shiloh Norman Mr. Miracle, very dynamic, very action oriented, very kinetic, but very clean lines. And here in the streets of Gotham City, the lines aren't as clean. It's more textured. It's more gritty. And that's what you want when you're in Gotham City, as opposed to telling kind of a futuristic New God story with Shiloh Norman, Mr. Miracle, where you want, more clean look. So I love that, whether, again, it's Fico himself or his collaborators, making sure that his art there's subtle changes in it to make it suit the story and be in service of the story even more. Like, fantastic job. And the color work itself by Marcelo Maiello, who's one of my favorite color artists, is done fantastically as well. So yeah, banger issue, no doubter for my top 5. And in fact, is it my top? No, just my top 5. Didn't quite make my top 3. Right up next, we have Supergirl from writer Sophie Campbell. And I have to say, I'm a little disappointed. Like, when this run first started, Sophie was handling the writing and the art duties. And I get that it's a lot. And maybe she had a few issues in the can. And now for the last couple issues, we've had a different artist. And I'm not enjoying the art as much. I would prefer Sophie be drawing this book. That being said, she does contribute, apparently, because she's listed as an artist, but along with Rosie Campe, whose art style is a little visceral, and it's a Halloween issue, Halloween story, horror story. So I guess it does kind of work, but I'm just not a fan of their style necessarily. Tamara Bonvillain is on colors, and then we've got Becca Carey on letters. So, I was a big fan of this book for the first 4 issues, and the last 2 issues, honestly, have felt like a little bit of a letdown. But I think the groundwork that was laid is still good. And so I'm hoping that we get back to exploring the relationship between Supergirl and the girl from Kandor. Sorry, I can't remember her name right now. And Alina Luthor. I love that relationship, as it were. But yeah, this issue, kind of Supergirl having a nightmare, it was only okay. And again, like, the art just didn't speak to me. Lesla, that's the name, Lesla, which is such a weird name too. So but it was the one thing that I did like about it was, Supergirl's having this nightmare and she's thinking back on previous iterations of herself, including the iteration where she was a member of the Red Lanterns, which I think was an underrated era of Supergirl, honestly. So just wasn't for me. I think it came in at number 11 for me. So next to last. So anything to add, Rob?
Yeah. It came in at number 10 for me, but I will give Sophie Campbell credit. I like the fact that she clearly knows a lot about Supergirl's history, because this Night Flame character that shows up is a manifestation of when Supergirl was Satan Girl for a while in previous issues. And I like the fact that it sort of explored her darkness, and with the Red Lantern iteration sort of showing up as Supergirl, and some of the other past traumatic events and different iterations of Supergirl also makes an appearance. So it's a little bit wonky with its continuity, but I like it because it shows all of it's important. It's the writer telling us that it's all important and that she knows her stuff. And I like that. And I think that the 2 artistic styles actually work, because we got the nightmare realm and then we got the real world. And so I thought that worked very well. And so I enjoyed it for that respect. And I enjoyed the ending too, with Supergirl saying, look, my darkness is my strength. And for Supergirl, it absolutely is. Supergirl as this issue makes very clear, had a more traumatic origin than Superman, and so she's. I actually argue, and I'm of the mindset and bias that Supergirl has a little bit more of wherewithal and perhaps even is better equipped to deal with nightmares than even her older cousin is. But in any event, I enjoyed it. And I thought it was well done. It was just the strength of the week. Just never really. It was just a little bit maybe tropey for me, but it was well done for if you're a Supergirl fan. This issue does have something for you.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, Sophie Campbell clearly a Superman fan, a Supergirl fan. Lena Luthor, LL, Lesla Lar, LL, and yeah, clearly knows her Supergirl history. There is I want to mention a Stanley art germ, Stanley Luau art germ cover that has Supergirl and Crypto. So, Summer of Crypto, you've been enjoying him, you might want to pick that up. All right, up next, not in my top 5, but I will say maybe my favorite issue of the series so far, coming in at number 10 for me, is The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, issue number 9 from writer Jeph Loeb. Chris Samnee does a fantastic job on the art, including the colors. Dave Stewart is on colors, and then Richard Starking handling letters and design. Partly what I love about this is it's been a little hard to follow what's been going on. I don't think there's been delays, but it feels like it.
Feels like it, yeah.
We get a recap. We get a recap with that doesn't feel like it's a recap, where we're being spoon fed with a bunch of exposition, but we get a recap that sort of explains everything that's been going on so far. I really appreciated that. And as much as I don't buy into the romantic relationship between Batman and Catwoman, I do recognize the relationship and the dynamic, which I think can work really well. And that's sort of a focus of this issue from Jeph Loeb. So, probably my favorite issue of it so far. But part of that might also have to do with the Samnee art, which I think, if you're going to give me a long Halloween story and tell me that unfortunately Tim Sale has his incredible talent has left us and he's not going to be able to draw it, who would I want to draw it? I'd probably pick Chris Samnee. Not that Samnee's his art is in a way similar to Sale in terms of like clean lines and the way he kind of blocks things out, but in another way, it's so different. Sale's art a little more, I would say, impressionistic, and Samnee's a little more realist, cubist maybe even. But regardless, I love Samnee art in this issue, and so that probably contributed to this being my favorite issue of the series so far. Didn't make your top 5, Rocky. What are your thoughts?
I like the sort of the revelation, although it's kind of old news that Catwoman is Selena Kyle is possibly Selena Falcone. That she may be connected. She might be the daughter of a daughter of the Falcone family. She might be heir apparent. That sort of reminds me a little bit like
works so well for the character. It worked that whether it eventually becomes canon or not, the idea of it works so well for the character. It's almost like
it does.
The possibility of it, like leave it as a possibility. Don't necessarily ever confirm or deny, because it works better as a possibility, maybe even than reality.
Yeah, well, and Catwoman she's been a godmother before, sort of godfather before in her various iterations, and also in the Batman movie, the latest Batman movie with Patterson. I mean, Catwoman was in fact the daughter of I think Falcone, or at least one of the mobsters in that Batman movie, and so it works. So I thought it worked okay. I thought the Chris Samnee's art is fantastic. It just fits so well. I really appreciated the recap because honestly, when I started reading this, I thought, oh my God, I'm completely lost because I just haven't really been following it. And I have to admit, through no fault of Jeph Loeb and through no fault of Chris Samnee, I just feel real down. I associate Jeph Loeb with the Batman Hush too, which I just detest. It's off. It's not even on my pull list anymore. It's off my pull list. I just don't like it at all. And so when I started collecting the new Batman series, I stopped my Batman Hush. I'm not even completing the story. I'm reading it, obviously reviewing it with you, but it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And the delays. I don't want to reward that portion of DC with my money. Don't worry, DC, you're getting a lot of my money with the absolute titles. And I'm buying. Yes, you're even sucking me in on variant covers that I know I shouldn't buy, but I'm buying anyway because I'm insane. I'm an addict and I need help, and I've yet to see a therapist about it. It's sad, but anyways, I digress. This wasn't it. This was a good issue. Didn't make my top five, but it was very well done. And is Selena Kyle the daughter of a Falcone? We shall see.
I mean, I'm only still buying Batman, the volume that has Hush. I'm only just for the completionist sake of. I
Yeah.
mean, like I want to have a complete run of. I never will have a complete run of Batman because I won't be able to afford those early Golden Age issues. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
working on numbers 200 through 300 right now
Yeah.
slowly. That's the only reason I'm buying it. Otherwise, I'd be in the same boat with
Yeah.
you.
Oh, by the way, just a quick point about that Batman Hush series. You notice when they canceled the Red Hood series because of the tragic passing of manner in which Charlie Cook left this earth, uh, and Red Hood was canceled. It sort of was building on plot points that are in Batman Hush 2. And I note that they're still soliciting. The solicitations for Red Hood issue 5 are still, you can still read the solicitations. And so it was very interesting that Batman Hush 2 is trying to introduce and rewrite a little bit of the continuity there in a way that I don't appreciate. So I think in a very underhanded, tragic way, I'm kind of glad that Red Hood was canceled if it was going to build on Batman Hush 2 continuity, because I don't like the series.
Yeah,
But
I mean, yes and no. I mean, first of all, I in no way support what the creator said at all. Like,
yeah,
I,
yeah, for
I
sure. Yeah, I know.
also in
It
no
was
way
terrible.
support. I in absolutely no way support the hate speech that Charlie Kirk has spread, throughout his lifetime or whatever. But nobody
Yeah.
deserves. I mean, this is a country founded on free speech, and you can say whatever the hell you want, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't have to agree with you, and I don't like it. I don't even pay attention to the point where when that happened, my sister sent out a text, and I was like, "Who?" Like I don't even know who the guy was. Um,
Yeah.
but I did really enjoy the first issue of that series and thought it had something to say, and that's why I wish it was still coming out. Now, I don't in any way disagree with DC's decision, to cancel it, because I don't think you want to support somebody who says things like that. I just don't. But in terms of Jeph Spokes, the artist, I love Jeph Spokes' art. He didn't do anything wrong. And I wanted the story, but that ship has sailed. But I take your point, right? Like it, this Hush 2 series has been a mess. Like I think back when it was announced at New York Comic Con last year and how much excitement there was. And honestly, DC, what you should have done was announced it this year after you had 3 issues in the can.
Yeah.
Then maybe that would have given you another 6 months for Jim Lee to draw the next 3 issues or last two, because I think he's done with the fourth. Um,
Yeah.
he's done, so that would have given him like 6 months to draw 2 issues. And I get it. The guy's got 27 kids and all the executive responsibilities and whatever. But you should have known. You should have known. And the fact that
Yeah.
originally they were like, remember when it was first announced? Like, I don't want to talk out of school, and I'm not going to mention who's I've heard this from or whatever. But like originally it was like the end of Chip Zdarsky. The end of Chip Zdarsky's run was going to come out 2 issues a month. Remember when they did that?
Yeah.
Because they were going to start Hush 2, and then a little while into it, they're like, oh wait, Jim is going even slower than we expected,
Yeah.
which I don't know how
Surprise,
you
surprise.
surprise, surprise. So then the last issues of Zdarsky's run didn't come out twice a month to give Jim more time. And then even then it's still late. And I remember like foot in my mouth completely. I remember people leaving comments on our YouTube video saying it's going to be late. And I was like, there's no way it's going to be late. There's no way DC's not going to want to have a regular, like it's the regular series of Batman, and DC has to put out a regular monthly Batman title. Well, what I should have stopped to think about was, first of all, you had the Matt Fraction series, which was going to start when it was going to start, regardless of whether the Jim Lee, Jeph Loeb series was done. But also, you got a million other Batman titles, so it's not as important to make sure you have Batman coming out monthly. But I was wrong. I thought it would be on time. I really did. I thought they must be making the effort. It's Batman. It's important. But oh my God, here we are. 3 months. It's been 3 months, everybody. 3 months since we've had the last issue. Ridiculous. So, what was I going to say? There is a two different covers that I wanted to call out for Long Halloween. The Chris Samnee variant with Catwoman, where it's like it's a mugshot where she's holding up her, like the little placard with name and her criminal number, what have you. And then the main cover is actually from Tim Sale. It's I think a previously unreleased piece of art from Tim Sale. So take that as you will. All right, moving on. Up next, the book I could not wait to read last week on October 1st, when I read Starbreaker Supremacy Part 5 in Green Lantern number 27. Before I read anything else for that week, I immediately had to come to the folder for this week, October 8th, to see if Part 6 was in there. Green Lantern Corps number 9. It was. I read it. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's from Jeremy Adams, along with co-writer Morgan Hampton. And I want to point out that I think this is the first issue where Morgan gets top billing. It's Morgan Hampton and Jeremy Adams. And I think with issue 10, Morgan's taken over on his own, which, kudos. He's such a fantastic guy. Talented writer, super nice guy. If you ever get a chance to meet him at a show, I'd recommend it. We have pencils by Fernando Pasarin, inks by Auclair Albert, Adriano Di Benedetto, and Daniel Enriquez. So you got 3 inkers. Eric Prianto on colors, Matt Herms, Lee Lowridge, and Trish Mulvihill handle the colors. I gotta think it's because there are so many characters. These pages are so jam-packed with action that I'm very impressed that there's only one penciler. I'm very impressed that Fernando was able to pencil this whole thing.
Very good.
I'll give credit to all the inkers, Auclair, Daniel Enriquez, and Adriano Di Benedetto, that I didn't notice. I didn't notice that there were 3 different inkers. This all looks like Fernando Pasarin art to me. So I think they did a good job of making it feel very cohesive. At no point did I even realize that there were 3 different inkers, because it all looks like Fernando Pasarin art to me. So I thought that was important to point out. So this, without question, made my top 5. Made your top 5 as well, Rocky. I'm going to let you go first, because you usually do a better job of recapping than me, and then I'll add.
Well, I don't know about that, but like I said, there's so much that happens here. One of the wonderful complaints I have is that I wish this was a double page. I wish this was a double the number of pages, just to allow Pasarin to show off. The last time, this is probably the greatest artist of all time in terms of rendering detailed people and characters on a page would be George Perez, of course, with his Crisis on Infinite Earths and his JLA the Avengers, but Pasarin,
Perez aesthetic.
Yeah, for sure. But Pasarin is just an excellent job here, and you nailed it with the inkers as well, to be able to do the fine line work, because these pages are too damn small. I want this to be an extra size page. I want this to be like a treasury edition. That's what I would love to see this issue in, so I can appreciate all the finer details in the art, because the strategies and the choreograph fighting that's going on. Morgan Hampton and with Jeremy Adams getting second billing. They just do an excellent job here, and the action is, it's just incredible. Because, of course, thanks to the sacrifice of John Stewart, he reignites all the central power batteries, so the emotional spectrum has been restored. The red lanterns, yellow lanterns, green lanterns, the hope, the violet lantern, all of them, they're all powered up, just as the Starbreakers attack. And boy, oh boy, what a fantastic series of, a fantastic number of scenes it is. there's violence, there's visceral violence, there's gore. There is the Starbreakers still tend to hold their own pretty damn well. We got Kelly, who's interesting enough. She's or rather, Ellie, the construct, is interestingly enough has a ring of hope. Is sort of like a Blue Lantern. That's interesting, and she's again very powerful in terms of how she utilizes her powers. I'm not entirely clear how all of this might interact in the future, but all the questions that I have are the questions that I'm supposed to have, because there's no way that you can focus on every single individual battle that's going on here. But I felt the gravity of this. This was literally like watching the third act of Star Wars when they're attacking the Death Star. You know, the good guys are getting killed left, right, and center, but all you need is one TIE fighter in there to win the day. And I felt the stakes, and it's awesome. And everybody somehow through Pasarin's art, everybody somehow has a chance to shine. Whether it was Guy Gardner, Hal Jordan, of course, Jon Stewart already had his moments, but the multiple little, like the Red Lanterns, the Yellow, like all of them. There's a little bit there's a little bit in there for everyone, including Hal Jordan's clone, who's been possessed by by Corona himself. And you know what's going to become of that? That's only teased at. It's absolute adrenaline rush. I cannot summarize all that happened other than the fact that the manner in which the Owens, the Guardians, I wish it didn't wrap up so conveniently. I understand why. I love how they sort of lured all the Starbreakers in, like sort of like flies into, you know how you have that electric light that lures fly, you know, on a, there's a lot of mosquitoes outside, you have the electric light and it attracts the mosquitoes and they all fly and get electrocuted. It's sort of like the emotional spectrum sort of lures in all the Starbreakers, desperate to feed off emotion, to sort of very humanely trap them within. I thought that was just very well done. For me, a little bit too convenient, because I kind of wanted a little bit more violence. I wanted a little bit more gore and revenge against the Starbreakers, because, you know, that's just who I am. Maybe it says more about me than the Starbreakers. But in any event, I thought it was excellent. What I found really interesting was the ending, which I don't know if this ending is going to shock some readers or not, but all of a sudden the ending, one of the Green Lantern rings from one of the killed Green Lanterns goes and finds Jon Stewart to draw him back. And I just want to make the point that a lot of people, you and I talked about it when we reviewed the final issue of Geoffrey Thorne's run. You and I talked about the fact that it's weird that now technically there's two Jon Stewarts now, and we even joked about how our future writers even going to remember that. Sure as heck, of course, Jeremy Adams, Morgan Hampton, they're going to remember that, and because there are two Jon Stewarts. So this is actually in continuity. For any readers out there wondering, how can Jon Stewart still be alive? This is a separate Jon Stewart, and to understand fully, you got to read Geoffrey Thorne's run, which can be a little bit convoluted at times, but it's all explained there. So, in any event, I'll let you talk about it there. I had a blast with this, and it absolutely made my my top 5.
Yeah, this isn't my top 3, no doubt. And I will say, if you're new to Green Lantern, if you're new to Jon Stewart, and you haven't read Geoffrey Thorne's run, and Jon Stewart's your favorite Green Lantern, then by all means go and read it. You'll love it. Geoffrey Thorne clearly worships at the altar of Jon Stewart, and he makes Jon Stewart the most powerful being in the DC universe. And you'll love it. And that ties in with why there's 2 of them, and the Dark Sector, and all that stuff. And yeah, of course Jeremy read it. Of course he knows. I was pulling from it, and we, Philip Kennedy Johnson and his Jon Stewart Word Journal series pulled from it as well. So, as much as we thought it was a little too fanboyish, I love that these other writers are pulling from it, and you're right. So I let's start here. Let's start with the idea of it wrapping up a little conveniently, because I 100% agree with you to a point. Because that's how I felt when I read it. Like I said, I read Green Lantern 27, then I immediately went and read this, and I was like, wait, that's how they defeat him? Like all this build up, and that's how they defeat him? Yeah, it was a little, because I was like, I want like a more definitive ending. I want to see, Starbreaker get like beat down and whatever. But when I reread it in preparation for this, for us recording this episode, I thought it was a little more fitting when upon reflection and reading it the second time, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's using brains over brawn, which I always appreciate, and secondly, it does something that Jeremy Adams does really, really well, which is it plants seeds for the future, for whether it's Jeremy that gets to pay it off, or Morgan that gets to pay it off, or other writers that get to pay it off in the future. And not only does it plant seeds for the future, so we're looking to something new, it also pays homage to the past, which again is something Jeremy does such a great job of doing constantly, right? Like that's what I love about his stories and his aesthetic. He's always telling something that feels fresh, but it draws from the past. This isn't the first time that we know that the lanterns themselves have had impurities or had entities trapped within them, right? Like we just saw the different cores go on the other side of the source wall and get the entities that previously were, the avatars of these different emotional spectrums, and they were trapped in there before. Like Parallax was trapped in the Green Lantern for a long time. The lantern on Oa that provided the Green Lantern rings with energy, and that's why they had the yellow impurity, because Parallax being the yellow entity. So I love that. It plants seeds for something new, a new story to be told in the future with these Starbreaker emotional vampires being stored. Like maybe you could do a story where the lantern, different lantern spectrums, across all of them start to weaken. They're charging their rings, but they just don't have as much power as they used to, and it could be because those emotional vampires are inside sapping the energy, or something else. Who knows? But I love that it plants the seeds for new stories, but it still calls back to things of the past. So that's great. The other thing I would say to any aspiring comic book writer or even current comic book writers, the way you do an event, like within a one corner of a universe or one title of a universe, this is the way you do it. I feel like the whole Starbreaker Supremacy event was so big and so epic and was so cohesive and so big that I totally agree with you, Rocky. We could have done with 3 or 4 more pages for each issue that was in the event. But I also feel like if it wasn't for what's going on with DCKO right now and Darkseid and all that this would have gotten more attention, and I think it deserved more attention because it was done so well artistically, narratively, and what have you. Because the other part of wrapping it up a little conveniently is that, like, what is really wrapped up? Yes, the immediate threat is over, but Jeremy does and Morgan do such a fantastic job of reminding us there's so much else still going on.
Yeah,
you mentioned
that's true.
Corona possessing a clone body of Hal Jordan, and we already see him showing up elsewhere. I'll just put it that way. But not only that, what does that mean for Kelly and her gauntlet? Because apparently it's Corona's gauntlet. Will she still have powers or what have you? The knowledge that Corona has that was released to the other Guardians, because that's something I don't know that we've touched on it or emphasized it enough, because it is very important. And the last time Jeremy was on, he talked about it. The fact that the Guardians of the universe that we have now each have different colored smocks. So it's almost like each of them is more closely aligned to one's emotional spectrum or another. And now they have, with what happened with Simon Boz, destroying the gauntlet before Corona's clone of Hal Jordan was completely completed, released some knowledge. That knowledge went back to the Guardians. Now they're aware of some things. We'll see that in the next issue of Green Lantern. What is it that they're aware of? We know in the past the Guardians haven't necessarily been forthcoming. They've kept secrets from the Green Lantern Corps, almost to the point where you think they're not even necessarily heroic or they're necessarily doing the right thing. And they talk about needing to maintain balance in the universe between good and evil, so that, if good is way up, they'll do things to bring good down and evil up. So, like, what is going on there? That's a question. We have the Corona stuff. We have the Kelly stuff. We have the John Stewart stuff that you touched on. So while this has been a huge event that's had a lot of moving parts, the only thing that really got solved is in the short term. For now, the Starbreaker Corps is imprisoned. But it's almost like you celebrate that small victory, but there's still such a long way to go. It's like I'll use the analogy of like an NFL schedule, right, for your favorite team, and the schedule comes out for the next season, and you look at it and you're like, oh, look at this game in week 4 against our divisional rival, who's really good, and we're really good, and we gotta, we can't overlook the 3 games ahead of that, but we really need to be sure to win that game. It's going to be hard fought or whatever, and it turns out it is hard fought. You win it at the buzzer, and you feel really good, and you want to celebrate that win, but you still have 12 games to go. That's where we are here. Like the these different cores, because again, that was so fantastic to see John Stewart reignite all the lanterns and have all the cores working together, whether it be Larfleeze as the only member of the Orange Lanterns, or the Red Lanterns, Indigo, Blue, like they were all working together. Where what's going to happen with them as they now go their separate ways. So that was a lot of fun. But again, with the different Guardians, now does each core have their own Guardian? Like there's so many questions, like you said, to be answered still, which is what you want, which is really interesting because when I look at this event, the Starbreaker Supremacy, and the other thing that Jeremy Adams has done, and partly probably because he worked on the Green Lantern animated series as a writer, he brought in some elements, Aya and Razor and what have you, which is really, really fun. The thing I look at as the Starbreaker Supremacy, like, man, if you want to get more people reading comics, like, do this event as like a 2-hour animated, or even better, like a 1-season, like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 episode animated series.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It's good, but you would have to have it be a little more contained. I don't know that you could necessarily have so many threads left over like we do here, but that's the difference between the mediums, right? Like if you did it as, let's say, a 1-season animated series, you wouldn't want to leave as many threads dangling, because then that would be like, oh, we have to do another season, which would be fine to pay that off. But especially if you want to do it like a 2-hour movie, it'd have to give a little bit more satisfying conclusion. But again, that's the difference. I'm sure that Jeremy and Morgan could have tied off more of these threads if they had to, but they don't have to, because Green Lantern Corps is going to continue, and Green Lantern is going to continue. So it's great that they plant the seeds and they keep us on the hook. But yeah, I would love, love, love a Starbreaker Supremacy DC animated movie. Like, oh my God, it would be amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So, man, I talked for a long time about that. You would almost think it's my book of the week. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum, Book 3 from W. Maxwell Prince as the writer, Martin Morazzo on art, Chris O'Halloran on colors, Gold Neon handles the letters. This is not in my top 5, and it actually comes in at number 12 for me. I'm just not enjoying this series. I loved the first issue. Second issue went way off the rails. I will admit that I enjoyed this third issue way more than issue 2. It's much closer to being the aesthetic of issue 1, but I still just didn't. It's not my cup of tea. Martin Morazzo, I love his art on Great Pacific. I think his art works well on Ice Cream Man. I'm not the biggest fan of it on for Superman comic, but yeah, it's just clear that this is just not. As a Superman fan, this is just not for me. So, if you're a fan of Ice Cream Man, though, fan of W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo, I highly recommend you pick this up. The color work, especially, is done very, very well. So, didn't make your top 5 either. Rocky, anything to add?
Not really. I mean, it's I kind of like the art. It's very stylistic, the art. I don't mind it. It's really weird. I just love Ice Cream Man, and it's just reading this. It feels a little bit. It feels like I'm reading a Twilight Zone version of Superman and Batman, and this time starring Shazam. And we got a younger version of Superman interacting with Billy Batson, and it's fun. it's fun, and they're still dealing with the different versions of Kryptonite and sort of an older Lois Lane who's frustrated with Superman and broke up with him last issue, and so that's sort of an ongoing like subplot. And Batman is sort of like the guy. Batman's almost like the annoyed sidekick to Superman because Superman's needs Batman to figure things out and help him along. And finally, one of the things we joked about in the first issue was how stupid is Superman testing out new forms of kryptonite on himself. Finally, at the end of this issue, Superman sort of reluctantly agrees, maybe it's kind of a good idea that I not test that last version of kryptonite. Maybe that's probably a good idea. Yeah, really, you think? But unfortunately, it looks like whether he wants to test it or not, it looks like it's going to be testing him. So again, it's actually interesting. It is comical. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just right now other distractions and other things that are just more enjoyable for me in the DC universe. But if you're a fan of Maxwell Prince, I mean, this is probably a must read for you because he does do a good job and he is having fun. And in this issue, I thought he did a reasonably good job, and I did find there were some laugh out loud moments for me, so I'll give him that credit.
Yeah, I mean, you're nailed it right there when you said a Twilight version of Superman and Batman. So if that's your bag, you'll definitely love this. And this rainbow kryptonite, apparently not even kryptonite, but a distress signal from the fifth dimension. So now we're going to get the Ice Cream Man creator's version of is Pitalik. Well, that's going to be kind of out there.
Yeah.
I will say, if these guys are going to do something, and this clearly is out of continuity, but if these guys were to do something else in the DCU, especially in continuity, I think I actually would be interested in reading a series about Billy Batson by them, because this Billy Batson this Captain Marvel or Shazam character they give us it's almost like an ADHD version of Billy Batson that you're like, is this guy going to grow up to be Captain Marvel and be a hero? Or is he going to go the other way and become like some serial killer Dexter style? Like, like the way they have him talk is, you're just like, whoa, all right, there you go. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Absolute Batman number 13. It's Abomination Part 5 from writer Scott Snyder, Nick Dragotta on art, Frank Martin on colors, Clayton Cowell on letters. This makes your top 5. For the first time since I can remember, Absolute Batman makes my top 5 as well. So yeah, believe me, it surprised me as well. But give me your thoughts on it, and then I'll go.
Yeah. In actual fact, even though it made my top 5, this is how good Absolute Batman's been for me. This is probably, interestingly enough, this is issue 13 of Absolute Batman. This wouldn't make my top 10 favorite issues of Absolute Batman, but it still made my top 5 this week. That's how high quality Absolute Batman's been in my personal opinion. This to me felt like this issue, not necessarily a lot happened, but we got some more interesting revelations and we got some good character work, because I love seeing Absolute Catwoman. I love seeing the fact that Catwoman, Selena and Bruce, they have a long-standing relationship. They clearly love each other. But last issue, Catwoman shows up because she wants to check in on Bruce to make sure Bruce is all right, because Bruce had disappeared by such a long time, being experimented upon in Arkham. And then, of course, Bane did those horrible things to their friends, to Harvey, to Cobblepot, to Edward, et cetera, et cetera. And, Catwoman shows up and, of course, really pisses off Alfred, but she wants to check in on Bruce, make sure he's okay. And in particular, she wants to make sure that he doesn't do anything rash, that he doesn't just run off to try to defeat Bane. Now, she knows, or has been able to infer, and certainly it's through just Nick Dragotta's fantastic art. I mean, you could tell that you could see all the experimentation that has been done on Batman's back. And I find it very interesting that even on the scars on Batman's back, there's even an M on the top, right below his neck. It almost looks like you could tell he was experimented on Arc M. And I don't know if that was, I assume it's an intentional artistic rendering that the scar looks like an M on his back. And in any event, he's also got venom in him. He's got Bruce has got a lot of anger. He clearly desires revenge on Bane. And I think that is something that he's got to like pull in and rein in as as Selena tries to warn him, saying, look, you got to focus. We have to have a plan here. Let me help you. And part of Batman's plan is he goes to the Red Hood gang and he basically is giving the message to the Red Hood gang that, look, I was able to overcome this. I was able to defeat Arkham. Everybody that's gone into Arkham, no one survived. I've survived, and I've managed to get out. And basically, in his own way, trying to inspire that Red Hood gang to sort of come onto his side and to help him out. And we got to remember that in last week in Absolute Evil, the Joker made a point of emphasizing to the rest of the members of the Absolute Justice League, i.e. Absolute Evil, that Batman refused the money, unlike Wildcat and some other heroes of past lore in the Absolute Universe. And so Batman is utilizing the fact that he does tend to stand out because, of course, the pendulum of justice tends to migrate toward darkness in the Absolute Universe. And in his speech to the Red Hood gang, they end up having a misunderstanding. They get attacked, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, he mentions that he wants to take down Arkham. He wants help. And then we got a revelation at the end. We meet the absolute version of Harley Quinn, which I'm very intrigued by. It's pretty cool. And so I love this issue. It was fast paced, but it was well done. I love the interaction. I love the character work. I love the introduction we get to learn a little bit more about the Red Hood gang. Everybody's on edge. Everybody knows that they're. I mean, I credit the Absolute Evil issue with making me have a greater appreciation at just how much behind the eight ball, how much the pendulum shifts toward darkness and that omega particle that permeates the Absolute Universe. How it's if you have any inkling to do good in the Absolute Universe, you got far more pressure to do wrong, to do evil, just because of the existence of the omega particle itself. And to be heroic in the Absolute Universe is that much more difficult than it is in the mainstream universe. At least that's how I interpret it. And that to me heightens it. And by the way, I just want to give you a pushback when you talked about hope in the Absolute Universe. I think there's more hope in the Absolute Universe because of the existence of the opposite of it. You only appreciate hope when you are faced with its opposite, despair, anti-life, that sort of thing. And so I feel that there's more hope in the Absolute Universe because it's that much more important. So I'm looking for it more, and I see it more in the Absolute characters. And if that makes any sense. And so anyways, that's why I love this issue. It was in my top. Yes, it is in my top 3. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so like I said, I have not been enjoying Absolute Batman that much, mostly because it just hasn't felt that different from regular Batman. It just hasn't for me. But with this issue, we get back to feeling like this is definitely a different Batman. He's so young, he's so impetuous. One of my favorite stories from early Batman days. It's early in Legends of the Dark Knight in the late '80s. Venom six-part issue or arc in Legends of the Dark Knight, where Batman does take Venom, same Venom that Bane's known for taking, and what it does to him, and it's fantastic. And now we have this absolute version of Batman, maybe possibly going to make the same mistake. And as you mentioned, Catwoman wanting to warn him. So I love that. And there's something else that happens in this issue that really speaks to the impetuousness of this Batman as well, which is complete badass. I'll talk about in just a second. But the other thing that really works for me, I literally just talked about it earlier in this episode about how I don't necessarily lean into the romantic relationship idea of Batman and Catwoman together. It just doesn't work for me. Except this version of Catwoman and this version of Batman, it works exceptionally well. It works so well because they've grown up together, because of the different circumstances that these two people have found themselves in. Again, growing up in Crime Alley with nothing, that shared trauma of the event that happened at the zoo where Bruce's father lost his life, and them trying to find different ways out of that and reconcile that and make Gotham a better place. Selina being one that was like, I'm going to get mine. I'm going to do what I have to do to find a way to not live in poverty. Becomes this thief, becomes this, world-renowned cat burglar, Catwoman, and goes off and does what she needs to do and becomes very formidable. Bruce obviously choosing to stay in Gotham and make it a better place and becoming, Batman AF, always advancing. If you choose to use that, or maybe you could use a different colloquialism. It's very popular nowadays when you talk about Batman AF. But I love it. It works. It works. If you love the idea of a romantic Catwoman and a romantic Batman, which again I don't in the main universe, but oh my god, am I all in on them in the absolute universe? And that can be a way that they can differ, for me. So, like, again, I've been drifting away from absolute Batman, and Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta have pulled me all the way back in completely. It's interesting that you say this for you doesn't even make your top 10 favorite issues of Absolute Batman. This is my favorite issue of Absolute Batman. Without question, it's not close. It's not close at all.
Interesting.
This is the best issue of Absolute Batman because, again, it shows the difference between main universe Batman and Absolute Batman in such a fantastic way, while planting seeds to pay off what things have Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta have been building. Now, I'm still not a big fan of the fact that Bane is going to always be at the center or at the foundation of Batman's Rogues Gallery, and why there's the Riddler that we will come to know, and Two-Face and Penguin, and everybody but Catwoman apparently, because of what Bane did to them. I'm still not a big fan of that, but I can put it aside and just take it for what it is. But if we want to talk about the other way that this once again emphasizes the difference between main universe and Absolute Batman is, like I said, the youth and the impetuousness beyond the venom, right? So we see Batman, as you mentioned, wanting to get revenge for what's happening after he talks to this, I'm going to say androgynous version of Harley Quinn, because it's not even, it could be a female, it could be a male. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily important. But I like the visual, and obviously, speculator alert, you're going to want to pick this up, obviously, because this is the absolute version of Harley Quinn, who's a very popular character. And I do also find, let me diverge here a little bit. I do find it interesting that Scott Snyder early on talked so much about Alfred as being our POV character, and I feel like we've gotten less and less of him as it's gone on. And here he kind of gets stomped by Catwoman, which is interesting, but I still find him to be a fun character, and I hope we get an issue that focuses on him and his perspective. I mean, oftentimes he's narrating, but he's narrating, and I would like to see him have a little bit more agency at some point. But anyway, getting back to this idea of the difference or what have you of Batman wanting to get that revenge to the point where he takes over the networks. I love that. It's so Batman 89, right? Like Tim Burton's Batman when the Joker takes over the airwaves. But it's not necessarily that he does that, although he does call it out, right? He's like, I tried to rely on the networks. I tried to show you that Black Mask was a bad guy. And instead, he just offered a bunch of money to everybody, and not anymore. This time I'm going to show you myself. And I love what he says. He's like, I'm going to drag this monster into the light and beat his ass. Like, if that's not the most, 13 or 14-year-old kid, I'm full of myself and I'm going to win the day, whatever. Like, he just says it. And in case there's any doubt, he's like, I'm talking to you, Bane, you little bitch. I know you're listening. Like, it's so unhinged in a lot of ways. It's so
AF.
Top. Yeah, it's so AF. It's like, oh, I'm Batman. Like, it's so amazing. It's so great. And I feel like that more than anything, and obviously the possibility of him using Venom, is why Catwoman walks away. She's like, man, I love this guy. I grew up with this guy. There's physical attraction there, whatever, but I can't save him from himself. So I actually have no idea what's going to happen. I can't believe that we even got to this point where, a Batman that turned his own stomach acid into a weapon and pulled out his own teeth to use as like knuckles, was not able to escape from Arkham, and he his body has been modified in the same way that Bane's body has been modified. Like, no telling what Snyder and Dragotta will do next. And that's what's really great about it. Because, again, like, emphasizing the difference between main universe Batman and absolute Batman, which is where I've been struggling and why it's been kind of falling down a little bit for me. On top of which, the other part of this being that you didn't mention, the fact that Bane has some belief. Now, we know that Bane made a deal with the Joker. The most we've seen of the Joker at all is in Absolute Evil, but then we've had hints of this other Joker where he looks like this demon, but I'm not a big fan of the aesthetic or whatever. What's that going to be? Whatever. But I say all that to say, not really a being that necessarily engenders trust, and yet Bane seems to trust him. Like, I've done all this stuff for you, Joker, and in Bane's mind, Batman, he's going to defeat Batman, and Batman's going to agree to take over for him and be the henchman or whatever of Joker, or however it works. So, and Bane's going to have return to a normal life back in Santa Prisca. Bane, you're deluded if you think that's going to happen in any way, shape, or form. But Bane, there hasn't been a single thing that Bane has said or has done at all where I felt anything but dislike for the character, and that's putting it mildly. Like, but when he says that in this issue, it was the first time I felt bad for him. I was like, oh, dude, you never grew past that little boy that just hoped for a better reality, without doing it the right way. He's done it the wrong way, right? Like, he agreed to whatever the Joker offered him and said, "Hey, I can make a difference by following this guy." He's done it in the wrong way, and without realizing that was a fundamental mistake, which just opened up a different avenue of the way I'm thinking about Absolute Bane. Which, again, really great storytelling from Scott Snyder. So anyway, I could talk more about this issue. Like, that's how good it is. That's how much it's opened up different avenues to think about, and whether it be Bane, Catwoman, Batman himself, Alfred, the city of Gotham, like, so much of the dynamic. Like, that's to me why this is the single best issue of this series so far, which is interesting, right? Because it's issue 13, so 12 issues in. So you can almost think of it as like the first issue of the next year of Absolute Batman, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park. They did such a fantastic job. So,
yeah.
All right, up next we have, or I said so much, Rocky. Anything that you want to add or build on anything that I said?
Not. I don't think. Not really. I think there's so much. There's so much to say about it. All I can say is I'm really. Here's what stood out for me at the end of the issue. In addition to really being intrigued by this absolute Harley Quinn, I'm really curious as to how in the hell. And kudos to Scott Snyder. I have no idea how Batman's going to defeat Bane. I still don't think Batman has enough. I don't think Batman can defeat Bane. I don't know why Batman thinks he can defeat Bane. He can have all the venom in it he wants. Bane's
a bomb from orbit.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, but that's what intrigues me. It's like I still feel like there's a lot of stakes here. Like in sort of a prototypical Batman story, whenever there's leading into a final battle, there's just always a silent knowing that, Batman's going to win. I don't assume that Batman's going to win. Now, of course, he's probably going to win. But if I look at the story elements leading up to this, there's nothing that should lead me to believe that this is going to be an easy win for Batman at all. I don't think he can defeat Bane without Catwoman's help. Or not without Alfred's help. I think he probably needs absolute Wonder Woman's help. And I know that ain't happening. So anyways, that's what I love about this is Batman is going to have to win this, and he can't rely on his he can't rely on his venom. He can't rely on his fighting skills because Bane's got him beat on both those fronts. Well, what is he left with? He's left with his intelligence. But guess what? Bane isn't we know Bane is as intelligent or more than Bruce Wayne because he's hooked because he gets it all. He's like a little bit of an AI sort of thing in his head. So even on the intelligence factor, I don't know how he's going to defeat Bane. And he doesn't even know anything about Bane's past. So Batman can't even use Bane's past against him that you talked about. So I'm really curious how Batman's going to win. And that's what I love about the build-up to the ultimate showdown, which is going to happen next issue.
Yeah, he's going to drop a bomb from orbit.
Yeah.
You know that line,
Yeah.
that line from Aliens?
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a cheat. I actually want Batman to do what he says he's going to do. You know, wreck him, rip him apart. I want him to do to his body what Bane did to Oswald Cobblepot. You know, make him suffer. That's what I want to see. But I don't know if we're going to get that.
Yeah, that line from Aliens. We'll head up to orbit. You know, nuke it from there. It's the only way to be sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, but actually, what intrigues me about it is this is the first time that Batman's going to get to go up against Bane, where they're sort of on a more, not necessarily a level, because I think Bane is still, physically ahead because he's had the powers or abilities longer. But Batman, I mean, they've given Batman that same treatment that Bane went through. So this is the first time that Absolute Batman's closer or as close as he can possibly get without the experience to being a physical match for Absolute Bane. So. But yeah, he's going to do something because he's Batman. He'll do something where he tricks him or traps him or what have you. So, all right. Up next, we have Action Comics number 1091 from writer Mark Waid, art by Skylar Patridge, colors by Yvonne Placencia, letters by Steve Wands. This came in for me at number 6. Just missed the top 5 in a week where there weren't quite so many strong books. It would be number 1, but there was, or in my top 5, but there is something that I really enjoyed about it, beyond just the art by Skylar Patridge, who does a fantastic job. But man, the first issue of this arc, when we had Captain spying on Superman, Rocky and I got in a pretty heated debate about Captain Atom and what he was doing, whatever. And talk about how non-heroic it was and how it made me dislike Captain Atom or whatever. And it was an interesting take for Mark Waid to take this Golden Age hero and turn him into Big Brother or whatever. And now it all flips back around in this issue. We find out that Captain Atom did it as a test to find out the true, because again, this is not Superman. This is Superboy. He just got his powers, no context for, who he's going to be and what his values are or what have you. So I love that it actually comes back around that Captain Comet was thinking, long game, testing the values, testing the decision. And yes, he gave away the secret to some extent, trusting that Superboy would find a way around it. So it ends up actually being really brilliant and, in my mind, redeeming Captain Comet in a way, but he didn't really need redemption because Rocky was right all along. I was wrong. Captain Comet didn't actually do anything wrong. But also, I want to give credit to Mark Waid for engendering such passionate responses from the both of us. Like, that's great writing. Like, I completely believe that we were getting a version of Captain Comet that was a little McCarthyist, if you will, little calling out the communists, Red Scare and what have you. So that was really well done, and what a way to flip it back around. And we find out that no, Captain Comet never, strayed away from his heroic values. So really, really well done. The Skylar Patridge artwork continues to be really clean and youthful and very much suiting the style of story that Mark Waid is telling. So, Any thoughts, Rocky?
Well, it is interesting. I will say that I don't feel like I take no pride in being right per se. I will just say that I actually think that Captain Comet was still kind of a jerk in this issue. So I mean, what he did was what a horrible. There was all kinds of ways to test him differently than to impair and put in jeopardy his secret identity and ultimately do harm. As a matter of fact, if Captain Comet was worried about Superboy being a potential harm to humanity and testing him for that reason, to me, you're poking the bear by stripping this young boy, putting his secret identity in danger, endangering him, his family, and everything else. If you want to poke the bear of somebody with the power set of Superboy and maybe push him toward the dark side, what Captain Comet did was unbelievably irresponsible, in my view, impairing it, potentially, exposing his identity to the larger part of the world, except, I guess, just playing with the U.S. military. It was just grossly irresponsible. And then, I don't know, is Captain Comet really dying? Is he still really dying? Or is that was that all just, did he just make up that too? I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, that's first, it hasn't ever been in continuity before, but that doesn't mean that he's not.
Yeah, but, well, in any event, I think he's, anyways, I thought it was well done. And I totally agree with you. The fact that you and I could, Mark Waid, kudos to him to allow that you and I could debate, the merits of the quality of the character of Captain Comet from that first issue. That's exactly what good storytelling's about. And then have it be misdirection. And then, it's a flip of the coin. It could have went either way, really. And so, yeah, it was very well done. I put this at number 8 for me just because of the strength of the week. But, it was still pretty good. Mark Waid continues to do a really good job rewriting for a modern era the early days of a young Superman.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with the way I took it though was, Captain Comet. This is a guy that's much older than his age, in terms of he was born a long time ago, and he appears to be more youthful than he is because of his powers. So it's not an excuse, but yeah, in like with modern values and modern viewpoint and modern perspective, we can look at what he did, and I don't disagree with you as, yeah, dude, this was the wrong way to go about it. I completely agree with you, but it wasn't as bad as what I initially thought, that he had evil intentions. He perhaps had misguided intentions, or perhaps it was from hubris, just from him feeling so much more experienced. But yeah, it was completely the wrong way to handle it. Definitely, we're on the same page there. All right, last book we're going to talk about in detail, the one you've all been waiting for. Now, we didn't save this for last to make you listen to everything else if this is all you're interested in. It literally is the last book in our folder for the press previews, and we usually just go in order. So it's DCKO number 1, chapter 1, Into the Ring, written by Scott Snyder. Javier Fernandez on art. Xermanico does art on the interlude. Alejandro Sanchez colors the entire thing. And then Hassan Otsman Elhau handles the letters. I'm not even going to pretend to go over the different variant covers because...
Well, I'll show them. I did a thumbnail showing all of the variant covers, and I'll show them now. But I did, I believe I got all of them.
Yeah, well, those are all the open orders. But then there's also...
the retail variant? Yeah.
Yeah, the second one there, whatever. But then there are, by my count, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 20 exclusive, retailer exclusives. Plus there's some exclusives that are going to be at New York Comic Con that I'm not sure are on this list that I'm looking at. So yeah, in addition to the ones that you have listed there, we got another 20. And there's a ton of retailer exclusives for Absolute Batman 13 that feature Catwoman, which there's a Mark Brooks one that he's selling for $50, and I'm a huge fan of Mark, and he's a friend, and I'd love to have that, but I don't think I can eat for 2 days, or I can buy this book. So I guess I'll probably choose to eat. But anyway, there's a ton of covers, everybody, because this is kicking off this big event that we've been expecting for a long time, and there's a big surprise as well in this issue. So this makes my top 3. I imagine it probably makes Rocky's top 3 as well. I know it makes his top 5.
Yes, it does. Yes, of course. Yeah.
So, give us your thoughts, and then I'll fill in the blanks.
Well, just to state the obvious, everyone knows this is a spoiler alert. You can't talk about this issue without talking spoilers. Now, the build up to this has been it's build up for quite a while here, and we know that that there is in the heart of our Earth, in the heart of the mainstream DC universe, in the Earth, there is essentially what they call an infernal machine that is basically manifesting and changing the Earth into an apocalypse. And basically, it's also filled with Omega energy, and of course, Darkseid is King Omega wherever he is, and in the Absolute universe, that the core, the King Omega is of course Darkseid, and King Omega, Darkseid, is cosmically sort of connected to the infernal machine that's slowly taking over and changing the Earth, the mainstream Earth, into basically a new apocalypse. And of course, we also know from all that's been going on and all the issues leading up to this, we know that Darkseid is slowly winning all the battles. He's from the future. He's making his way backward in time, and he's killing all the heroes, and he's taking over everything. And so there's really no way to defeat Darkseid. He literally is every when at once, everywhere and every when at once. And the heroes are pretty much doomed. And this issue starts off brilliantly with Superman having it showing it shows Superman, with some brass knuckles, with red sun, with novas in them, and then it shows sort of a flashback of a week, flash forward to a week from now, where Darkseid is attacking the Earth, and he's going to quite easily defeat the heroes, and ultimately he does. And it's a vision that Superman has, but then all of a sudden we're at present, where Time Trapper, Doomsday, the World Forger are talking to the members of the Justice League and basically telling them, look, we're all doomed. Darkseid's going to win. And the working theory on how to save everybody is, let's pull, and this is my words, they basically want to move everybody to a new universe. Create a new pocket universe if we can, sort of like what the New 52 was. When Dr. Manhattan maybe sort of created the New 52, by some definition, that's the only way. We got to get out of this universe. It's doomed. We got to get out of here. Well, Batman, much to Batman's credit, Batman says to Time Trapper and to, hey, just give us some background here. What? And then basically, upon being told that we have this infernal machine in the Earth, we have these Omega energies, we got King Omega, Batman basically says, well, is there a way that we could maybe reboot the infernal machine, like shut it down, and then once it's rebooted, can't we create our own King Omega to fight Darkseid? And of course, that's an absurd idea. That's not going to work. That's a 1 in a million shot. But of course, that's what they're going to try to do. And the World Forger basically tells them, look, okay, if we're going to shut this infernal machine off, then the moment this infernal machine picks on again, the moment it is rebooted and comes back on again, it's going to look for a King Omega. And that's when we got to have a tournament. And that's when all the heroes and everyone on this, certain people, certain contestants, that's when you battle. And those of you who have who show the least amount of mercy and are the most ruthless and violent, you're going to be crowned King Omega. And then you can battle Darkseid and hopefully save the universe and the multiverse. And so that's really the backup to it. And while that's all being explained, to the credit of the creative team, we got Superman who's really battling, has a battle of... Superman doesn't like the plan because it's everybody embracing the darker angels of their nature. Batman and Wonder Woman say to him, look, Clark, we have to do this. But we're doing it for the right reasons, the right motivations. It's the one way we have to save everyone, and that's what they engage in. In order to do that, though, the Earth is still being transformed into an apocalypse. Before they can get to the infernal machine, they have to have the backup plan because they have to assume they might fail. So they have to evacuate the planet. They have to evacuate the entire planet Earth. This is really big stuff, and so they're looking at various technologies to shrink whole populations and cities, to basically put them in bottles and to basically evacuate the entire planet in lead up to the battle once they shut down the infernal machine, reboot it, and then upon it coming online, they have to, of course, join the tournament. And of course, the one problem they have is with the villains. What the hell we got to keep the villains away from this. The last thing we want is the villains involved in this. So they, Mr. Terrific, with his T-Spheres, has his T-Spheres visit basically all the villains on the planet, transporting them temporarily to the Phantom Zone, and hopefully keep them out of the fray. Unfortunately, things go awry, and I guess you could say, as the tournament gets underway, various people, of course, don't even make it into the opening round, because we know that there's going to be 32 contestants, but there's more than that first sort of enter the fray. But there's 32 contestants. Before they can even establish who those 32 are, there are many things that happen, a lot of surprises. We've clearly been misled a little bit in an awesome way. We're all familiar. We're all familiar with the DCKO list, or the tournament list. We're all familiar with that. We assumed certain people would be in their tournament based on that. We were led astray, and we were led astray for a number of reasons. But I'm going to let you take it from there, Chase, because I don't want to have all the fun here. So go.
Yeah, Batman doesn't even make it into the tournament, which I had him losing in the first round. You guys had him winning in the first round, both you and Steve, but he doesn't even make it in. But unfortunately, we're in the same boat, because I had him losing in the first round to Star Sapphire, but he doesn't, because he doesn't even make it in there. So you guys were wrong to choose Batman, but I was wrong to choose Star Sapphire, because it's the Joker. The Joker actually kills Batman. The Joker kills Batman, and he's the one that's going to take Batman's spot. So really interesting, because really when we talk about, this is a 40-page issue. The first 17 pages, 16, 17 pages are honestly just recap. They're things we've seen in either Justice League Unlimited or the Justice League Omega DCKO special, or the pages of Superman or whatever. But I'm fine with it, because it puts everything all in one place, where we get context of emotion from what the concrete plan is to try to defeat Darkseid. We're told that Darkseid has already won, which we've been told that before, but it's explained in more detail. And so again, we know what's going on, and anybody who hasn't been reading can jump into DCKO event just by picking up this DCKO #1 and understand what's going on. So almost the first half of the issue is setup. And then we get, as Rocky said, okay, what's going to be done with the villains? What's going to be, who's going to stay behind to try to evacuate the planet? And then we finally get a chance to see Booster Gold zap the Apocalypse Heart that's at the center of the Earth, defibrillate it, as they talked about in the very beginning in those first 17 pages, and restart. And then everybody that wakes up is transported to the gates of the arena. And then the 32 that make it into the gates, make it through the gates, they're the ones that are going to be participating. And it's during that mad dash, during that, because there's guardians, there's people that are guarding these monsters, demons, titans, whatever you want to call them. They're guarding the gates. They're trying to prevent people from getting in. Plus the villains show up. A few villains that supposedly Mr. Terrific transported everybody to the Phantom Zone, but we see Cheetah, we see King Shark, we see Joker, we see Lex Luthor. Like, how did they? We see Starro. How did they escape from the Phantom Zone, or how did they prevent themselves from going to the Phantom Zone at all? And it's during that time that we start to see some fights. It's during that time we see the Joker take out Batman. We know we're getting I can't remember what it's called, Dark Knight or something, whatever. We're getting some sort of Batman miniseries. I speculated that Batman was going to lose on purpose in the first round so he could go and do something else. So whether he's actually dead or not, anybody who dies in this tournament, at the end of the day, we all know that the heroes are going to triumph, right? Even though we're told at the end that something else is going to happen, the heroes are going to win. It's going to be a hero that somehow, maybe they don't win the way they think they're going to win, but the heroes are going to win. That's the only way we can have the universe keep going, right? The DC universe keep going, especially a universe that's founded on hopefulness. So we know that that's what's going to happen. And if that's the case, then anybody who dies during this tournament will be resurrected, because if a hero wins and a hero has the power to rewrite reality, they just rewrite reality with who's ever been killed being resurrected. So even if Batman has really been killed by the Joker, we know he'll be brought back. However, we have this other Batman miniseries. So is he really dead or not? Either way, even if he's not dead, he didn't make it through the gate. He's not going to be one of the participants. So super interesting, and it sets up a possibility going forward that we have Red Hood and Joker in brackets that are close to each other. So again, like when I read this, I immediately went and looked at Rocky and Steve's picks, and I'm like, oh, they picked Batman for several rounds. That's going to be wrong. But then I picked Star Sapphire just for the first round, and then I didn't pick her after. But then I also didn't necessarily pick Red Hood. If I knew it was Joker instead of Batman, yeah, I 100% would have set it up for Red Hood Joker. You know that's what we're going to get. You know they're going to want to get that. So anyway, it really screwed up the brackets. I call
But
shenanigans.
I will say this. I just add that it is revealed here that Darkseid himself has basically taken the form of one of their own, and it looks like he's possessed Booster Gold. And so
I mention that. So, that's what I was saying about the fact that we're told at the end, I'm here saying, hey, a hero's going to win the tournament. I didn't say a hero's going to win the tournament. A hero's going to win. A hero's going to end up with the power. But we're already told straight up by Scott Snyder, who wrote this issue, that none of these heroes win. Like he says, none of these heroes are going to win. It's not Superman. It's not Batman. It's not, any of these, because unbeknownst to any of these heroes, Darkseid is already there. He says, horsemen from a world where his rule is absolute, monsters. There are just some of the horrors that wait. But if you want to know the real truth, the final one I'll tell you, it's that none of them win. Not Clark, not Diana, not Mari, who's Vixen, not Eel, who is Plastic Man. None. Because what they don't know is that there's one last champion among them. The king himself, that's right. Darkseid has taken the form of one of their own. So no, friend, the game isn't beginning. It's already over. So one of these people, one of these 32, and we get a great look at who actually is in the tournament with the Joker taking over Batman's spot. One of these people is Darkseid. No, I absolutely no idea who could be. My gut, like the most obvious would be like maybe the Demon, Starro, Swamp Thing, Cyborg, because those seem like they could be taken over.
yeah.
Least likely for me would be Superman. Would be the least likely.
Yeah. It could be anybody. If Darkseid's going to take over the winner, anybody, even the weakest could heck, Vixen could be the one for all we know. It's crazy, but it's awesome.
Yes.
This is
Yeah,
like,
it definitely throws a wrench, and they come right out and say it, didn't leave it for the end. I kind of love that they planted the seed. If my guess is that they won't come back and mention that at all in the subsequent issues, it'll just be, hey, it's in the back of your mind or whatever. But yeah, it's all the people that we thought, but instead of Batman, it's Joker. So Joker, Star Sapphire, Jay Garrick Flash, Vixen, Green Arrow, the Connor Hawk version, Demon, Superman, Cheetah, Hawkman, Lobo, Zatanna, Power Girl, Plastic Man, Batwoman, Starro, Barda, Lex Luthor, Harley Quinn, King Shark, Aquaman, Black Lightning, Supergirl, Firestorm, Robin, Damian Wayne, Captain Atom, Swamp Thing, Cyborg, Red Hood, Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Metamorpho, Wonder Woman, and who am I forgetting? Who's that blonde girl in the lower left corner? It's not Black Canary.
Harley Quinn. What do you mean?
No. Who's next to Captain Atom?
What?
Who's,
Oh, Giganta.
yeah, I thought maybe it was Giganta, but her hair looks blonde, and I thought Giganta's hair was red. Anyway, Giganta, yeah. So anyway, super exciting. No idea what's going to come next. I'm really looking forward to the DC KO panel at New York Comic Con. I imagine they'll drop some hints or maybe give some spoilers. So again, make sure you're following the Comic Source on social media. So you'll find out at this basically same time I do. Well, as long as it takes me to type it out with my fat fingers, you'll find out what the news is. So, but yeah, those are the books that we're going to talk about in detail for this week.
I want to interject here, Jason. Talk about one book that it wasn't on the DC list, but it's out by Dynamite. But it's Harley Quinn and Elvira. It's the first issue of a Dynamite series. It is a crossover of Harley Quinn and Elvira, and it's written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner. And so I just, because I know we're both fans of Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner, and their version of Harley Quinn, I think, is the most that resonates with most fans. And although I know you're not necessarily a big fan of the Dynamite line for your own reasons, I just thought I'd give a shout out to this series because I'll be supporting this series.
I've been reading more and more. I've been reading a few Dynamite titles lately. I do not condone or support their ridiculous amount of variant covers, but yeah, they do put out some decent books. So anyway, a lot of collected editions this week, starting with the compact edition of Batman: The Long Halloween, Jeph Loeb, Tim Sale. It's classic. It's evergreen. You should definitely read it. We also have Red Hood and the Outlaws Volume 5 trade paperback, which collects episodes 47 through 56 of the Red Hood Outlaws webtoon series. Justice League The Atom Project trade paperback, which Rocky and I really, really enjoyed. Recent miniseries, all 5 issues collected, written by John Ridley and Ryan Parrott, with great art by Mike Perkins. DC's Finest Static, Playing with Fire trade paperback, collects the first 15 issues of the first Milestone Static series. Batman 89 Echoes hardcover. Hard to endorse this. It took like 2 years to come out. It is Tim Burton's version of Batman, written by Sam Hamm, who's the screenwriter for the first 2 Tim Burton Batman movies. But it just took forever to come out, and I honestly don't know if it's any good or not because it lost so much momentum. But if you're a fan of Tim Burton Batman, you might want to check that out. Also, Hush is getting a new Absolute version. Not the Absolute version, universe version, but Absolute version in terms of the oversized 11.5 by 17. So you can see the art as it was originally drawn by Jim Lee. The Authority has Volume 2 of its Omnibus coming out, which collects issues 20 through 23 of the Authority series, plus a ton of other tie-ins. It's 1,600 pages for 125
Wow.
So yeah, huge. Absolute Batman Dark Victory hardcover. So again, that Absolute treatment, the 11.5 by 16 Dark Victory, which is also by by Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale. It's kind of a spiritual successor to The Long Halloween in a lot of ways. And then there's the third one, which I can't remember the name, Holiday, I think it's called. And then that leads into the current series that we have going on right now, Last Halloween. There's also a Batman Arkham Asylum Living Hell Deluxe Edition hardcover. That is Dan Slott's first work at DC, with art by Ryan Sook. And then finally, Red trade paperback, which is written by Warren Ellis with art by Cully Hamner, which was a Vertigo title, so completely out of continuity. But there is a movie starring Bruce Willis and John Malkovich and some others that's basically based on that graphic novel. So if you want to read the original source material, you can check it out. So those are the collected editions that are out this week. Time for the rankings. I went first last week, Rocky, so you're up.
All right. Well, coming in at number 12 for me was CORT. By the way, I should say that I've done some renumbering here from when so this might contradict what I said earlier, but I felt compelled to do a little bit of renumbering at the bottom of my list. So putting at number 12, I put CORT issue 2, Children of the Round Table. Coming in at number 11 was Supergirl 6. Coming in at number 10 was Superman Kryptonite Spectrum issue 3. Number 9, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween issue 9. Coming in at number 8, Action Comics 1091. Coming in at number 7, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice issue 4. Coming in at number 6, Batman and Robin 26. My top 5 are as follows. Coming in at number 5, Aquaman issue 10 by Jeremy Adams. Coming in at number 4, Green Lantern Corps issue 9 by Morgan Hampton and Jeremy Adams. Coming in at number 3, Batman Dark Patterns, number 11. Hayden Sherman continues to impress with the art on that. I love that. Coming in at number 2 was Absolute Batman issue 13. I loved it. But number 1, I mean, I had to go with DC KO. It just blew me away. It's just so exciting. We could easily do an hour. I could talk for an hour just on the plot lines and the potentials and just the wrinkles and the misdirection with what happened to Batman with Joker taking his place. I mean, there's so many. It's just so much fun. I'm looking forward to it, and I just it's a great way to start off the first week of October here. So or second week of October. But what about yourself?
Yeah, number 12, I have Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum, number 3. Coming in at number 11, Supergirl, number 6. At number 10, I've got Batman, The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, number 9. Coming in at number 9, Batman, Dark Patterns, number 11. At number 8, we've got Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice, number 4. At number 7, Court, Children of the Round Table, number 2. Number 6, just missing out on my top 5, is Action Comics number 1091. And then at number 5, I've got Aquaman number 10. At number 4, Batman and Robin number 26. At number 3, I have Green Lantern Corps number 9, which any other week that would have been my number 1. Man, I absolutely loved it, as indicated by how long I talked about it, for so many reasons. And then I don't have a number 2. I have a tie for number 1. I went back and forth. I couldn't decide. Absolute Batman number 13, DC KO number 1, both written by Scott Snyder. I couldn't pick. I was like, DC KO is so important to what's going on with the future of the DCU. So many seeds planted, so many rugs pulled out from under our feet with Joker killing Batman and finding out Darkseid is literally disguised as one of the other members. But Absolute Batman has been a phenomenon, and this is the single best issue for me of the entire series so far. How can I not pick that as number 1? So I was like, I'm going with Absolute Batman. But then it's wrong to go with Absolute Batman because DC KO is so important and it's so good. The art in both is fantastic. I could not decide. I couldn't decide. I could not pick. It was totally Sophie's choice. So I was like, forget it. I'll just go with a tie for the both of them. So that being said, you can't, a lot of times it's like, okay, my pick of the week is if you can only buy one book this week, you buy this book. So you can't buy one book this week. So if you can't get Absolute Batman or you can't get DC KO because you're getting the other one, then skip a meal, skip a coffee from Starbucks, and get the second book. You gotta buy both. You gotta get both. And the other thing is that this issue of Absolute Batman number 13, like setting aside the specific plot points for this particular issue and what it means for the plot of the Absolute Batman story going forward, and setting aside DC KO and the specific plot points and what it means for this event going forward, if you just take a broad overview of the two issues, they both really epitomize what is working with the Absolute Universe and what is working with the main universe. So if you haven't been reading DC at all, you just stumbled across this video, you can pick up Absolute Batman number 13 and you can pick up DC KO or one or both or either one if you want to know what's the Absolute Universe in the DC corner of comics about. Again, this Absolute Batman 13 really epitomizes what it's about. If you want to know what the main universe in DC Comics is about right now, in terms of the stakes and what's going on and the grandeur, then pick up DC KO number 1. As we mentioned, the first 17 pages really recap and tell you everything you need to know so you can be in on this event. So, I mean, that's the way you draw in new readers. That's the way you do it when you want to be able to have somebody just pick something up off the shelf and be fully immersed and fully drawn in. So kudos to Scott Snyder, I guess, doubled over because he wrote both of these issues. Not that he didn't have a ton of help on DCKO, and obviously Nick Dragotta is helping plot Absolute Batman. So, yeah, fantastic job from all the creators, and what a great time to be a DC fan, as you said right at the start.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Again, be sure you're following the Comic Source on social media to get all the live panel coverage from New York Comic Con. And obviously, I'll have some content coming out on the Comic Source YouTube channel and on the Comic Source podcast feed. So head over to the Comic Source YouTube channel if you're checking us out on Rocky's channel. Comic Space Boom ! Is Rocky's channel. Like, comment, subscribe. Ring that notification bell so you know when new content comes out. Be sure to leave comments down below about what you thought about the switcheroo with Joker and Batman and the rest of the books this week. But while you're at YouTube, be sure to head over to the Comic Source as well. Just do a search for the Comic Source. Like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new content comes out. And if you prefer to listen audio only, just head to your favorite podcast platform or app and do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. And you have access to all of our content going forward, including the DC Spotlight audio only version, or 2,000 plus episodes of Back Matter. You can go and listen to interviews and convention coverage and what have you. Don't forget the QR code if you want to help me eat while I'm in while I'm in New York. Any amount you give is greatly appreciated. And I think that's going to do it. So hopefully Rocky and I will be able to record next week the October 15th issues before I head out on my trip as well. So when we do that one, just know we're recording it ahead of time. And then hopefully, as I mentioned at the top, we'll be getting some live streams, some live YouTube shows post New York Comic Con. Just because I think doing them live, hopefully people show up and it gets a chance for you guys to ask questions. And our thought for those episodes is, maybe talk a little bit more about the independent books. We weren't able to get the indie spotlight back up and running because it's just too much of a time commitment. But we could talk about a few of the indie books that because our thought is to do it like on Fridays or Saturdays, maybe Sundays, probably Friday or Saturday though. And talk a little bit about a few of maybe Marvel books we've read that week, or indie books, or some of the comic news that's come out. Like I said, we have more thoughts about DC Marvel crossovers and blind bags and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be a chance for you guys to interact a little bit more, as opposed to interacting in the comments. You can interact live. So look for that post New York Comic Con. So anything to add, Rocky, as we're closing down?
Yeah, I mean, get out there and buy DCKO, guys. It's so much fun, and it's only 5 issues. It's an adrenaline rush. You really don't need to read anything before that. You can really read DCKO #1. You can go in blind. There's like you said, the first third issue, it's all explained there. Just have a lot of fun. So even if you're a Marvel zombie and you don't read a lot of DC, come on over, have some fun at least for 5 issues. You won't regret it.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Appreciate the support as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.